TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah Podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? You're now tuned in to the TruthSeekah Podcast. Excited, delighted to be with you guys again. Another amazing show talking about all things spiritual. This is awesome. Shout out to everybody flooding the chats. As always, everybody listening to us on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, wherever you're listening to, man. Shout out to you. All of you people who are listening on the podcasting apps, shout out to you guys too. You guys make the show. It's going to be good. Talking to my friend Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal today. It's going to be good. We're going to talk about ghosts, goblins, demons, spirits, whatever. And if you have had any paranormal experiences, the phone lines are open. You can call in. Give us a little while, about 30, 45 minutes or so. We'll take your calls. Phone number is 251-263-0001. And so that should be up and running. And we'll take your calls here shortly. Want to give a shout out to everybody supporting my work via Patreon. This is a listener supported show. Without your support, this doesn't exist, at least not to this extent and not to this level. So thank you guys for being co-creators and building this podcast and making this available to the masses. You guys rock. If you'd like to support my work, my music, all that kind of stuff, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music. It's like 200 plus songs. Everything that we talk about on these podcasts, I try to put it in music format, so like hip-hop format. So talking about the spiritual, the paranormal, the unseen, all that kind of stuff. Check it out if you haven't heard it. It's so funny that like the marriage between the music and the podcast and the book and all this stuff kind of complements one another. There's people who listen to the music and they're just head over heels for the music, and they find out that I have a podcast pretty much breaking down and explaining the terms and concepts that are within the music. And then people on the other side who find out about the podcast and like, oh, you do music too? And then they find out about the music and they just fall in love with that. So the marriage there. So if you haven't heard any of the music, make sure you head on over there. My Patreon, the website, just look it up on YouTube. It's all out there. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access also to our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is the community aspect to what we're building here. So I'm looking forward to that. We're doing that tonight, every Thursday night, School of the Mystics. You get access to that for any level of giving. So my new book is out as well. If you guys have not had a chance to check it out, make sure that you go to Amazon, get you a copy of that. You can get it in before Christmas if you put your orders in now. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's discussion. My friend Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal. What's up, my brother? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, man?
Oh man, good to have you on, and we just already been, getting into some good conversation before we even push the live button. And I try to tell people, we start talking, I was like, we gotta stop talking, because all of this would be good content for the podcast and share with the community, man. But looking to get into some of that we've
The conference will automatically end in 5 minutes.
Oh Lord, I don't even know what that is. I don't know. It's this turbo bridge that you got me on.
That's on Zoom for me, man. That came up on Zoom. It even showed a padlock or whatever. I don't know what the hell that is.
Serious?
Yeah. What does that mean?
This is weird. Hopefully, I don't know.
It might be the TruthSeekah show only.
Freaking me out. Yeah, freaking me out a little bit. I don't know. We'll keep moving. I don't know what it is. It's all of the stuff that we have going on. But if something happens, just click the link and jump back in. So I just did an interview on your podcast, the Paranormal Portal. Talked about my book and going through some of the stuff that's mentioned in there. So I want to talk about that. Send some people over there to listen to that, because we did 2 hours on your show, which was so much fun. I'm gonna send some people over there to check that out. But for people who don't know who you are, who are kind of new to your work and what you bring to the table, just kind of give a background of who you are and what you do.
Well, the Paranormal Portal is just basically it's a discussion about the paranormal. I don't pretend to be an expert or anything. I don't believe there are experts. If anything, the paranormal is it's just some odd things that happen in our world that are profound and amazing, and they're life-changing experiences, and they crush people's paradigms, and they reshape people in their wake. And so it's just our forum to have the discussion about all these strange things going on, whether it's cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, psychic, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we cover a whole spectrum of topics, but we have a show. We started out on Truth Frequency Radio in 2016, I guess. So about over 3 years ago, or 3 years ago, sometime. Anyway, but then we have expanded now. We have a YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/Paranormal Portal. And we are on Revolver Podcasts. And so we're out there on all the major platforms as well. But it's just our pursuit just to understand this. Now, my fascination with the paranormal came, at a very young age. I don't ever remember not being interested in ghosts and Bigfoot and, all these different things that are going on. But it's been something that I've spent a large part of my life experiencing as well. It's not just, I'm not just academically interested or just fanboy interested. I'm actually had many different experiences. And now for me, what I think the significance is that people kind of regard the paranormal as when things go sideways. But for me, it's more of a clue. Like, it's a clue, and it demonstrates the dynamic, fluid nature of our reality. We're so used to thinking of this world being 3 dimensions, and there's just so much, and everything else is rigid. But I think when these things happen, they are incredibly profound examples of what is possible. And I think that's the clue. And that might even be somewhat of what Nikola Tesla was talking about when he said, as soon as we start researching the non-physical, we'll make more progress in 10 years than we made in the entire history of mankind. And I think there's so much energy and so much to learn from these oddities that I think it's an incredible journey and one that I'm just honored to be on and to have a platform to discuss.
That's awesome, man. I'm kind of with you. Like, I can look back over my life and from childhood, I can trace back and this fascination with the other side and with the paranormal, if you will, or monsters or the things that go bump in the night from literally a toddler. Like, could be, and I think it was because I can trace it back to weird experiences, that I had. So there was like something that happened in my life. I talked about it on your show. Send people back, go check that out. But I talked about a night terror, being pinned down to my bed when I was like 4 years old. I remember it. For you, was there any like early on experiences that kind of lit something within you? Was it a movie that you saw? That was a big part for me, especially in the 80s, tons of horror movies. And, but for, when I was a little kid,
the conference will automatically end in 30 seconds.
I don't have no idea what that is. I'm sorry, listeners. I don't know what that.
It might be my Zoom. I think that I'm not on a pro version, so I may have a timeout period. So I may have to reconnect if that happens, like you said.
Okay.
So.
Well, I have no idea what that is. We'll keep talking. So for you, was there any experiences when you was a kid that kind of lit that fire within you, like with the paranormal?
I certainly.
Conference ending. Goodbye.
We're still here. Right back. No, we're still here. It was Turbo Bridge. Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. For me, there wasn't any early. Really, really early experiences that I had. I think I was probably in my teen years before I experienced anything paranormal. And my first experience, I think, was when I was 14. I mean, there's been many quote unquote psychic events in my life from an early age, but there was never any like ghosts or UFOs or anything until I was 14, and that was my very first experience. And that absolutely was, to me, life-changing. I'd already been interested in all of this, but for some reason I never had any experiences. So I was always on this journey to try to understand it because I was interested in it for as long as I can remember. But when I was 14 years old, we were hiking. A friend of mine who was 15 and I were hiking in this state park near where we grew up, and we were climbing into this wilderness area, and we climbed to a top of what's called a bluff, and it's basically a short mountain is all a bluff is if you're not familiar with it. But we got up there and we were having a good time, and we decided it was getting to be later or in the afternoon, so we were going to hike back down. And we went down this dry run ravine, and we got to this stop on the descent. And it was a dry run because it only runs water during the spring melt. There's not any springs or anything feeding this stream bed, but it's just during the spring runoff. But it's obviously tens of thousands of years old because it's really well carved into the limestone. But we're standing there on this dried out waterfall and just on the edge of it, and it's about an 8-foot drop below us. And we came right down and just stopped there just to get a breather. And all of a sudden, from right behind us, like around 8 feet behind us and just above, like it was tall, something growled. And I grew up in Minnesota, the southern part of Minnesota, right on the Mississippi River Valley. And the biggest thing we had there was white-tailed deer. We didn't even have bear or anything. There was no big animals that should have been present. And this growl was so deep and so profound that it vibrated my body. And for the life of me, I had no point of reference for that because I'd been in these woods all my life. I'd been through here, throughout the course of my youth, and never seen or heard anything like that before. So I was just frozen. And for the life of me, truth, I could not turn around. I didn't know what was there, but I knew that it was going to kill me. In that moment, I felt like I was going to die. Something was very big and resonant, huge, huge. And it was growling right behind us, like within, an 8-foot radius is what it felt like. And he couldn't turn around either, my friend. And we were just locked in.
You will hear silence until the conference begins. You are a host.
Somebody's the host. Am I the host?
Turbo Bridge.
Oh, Turbo Bridge.
I'm trying to figure this out, man. And you turned me on to this phone thing.
Sorry, brother. It should work.
All right, we're good. Keep going, man.
Okay, but so we're locked in place, and this growling has happened right behind me and behind him, and I just said to him, "What the hell is that?" Now he was 15 years old, a year older than me, but he was in all these environmental groups, and he just said, "I don't know, but we need to get the hell out of here." So we just ran. We ran for it down this boulder run, and we ran until we hit the main road, which is about half to 3/4 of a mile away, and nothing was chasing us. Nothing was there, but for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what the hell that was. What was going on? And so I carried that for years and years and years. And with the advent of the internet, much later, I started researching it and found out that I knew there was things like Bigfoot. I knew that they were out there, but I knew they were in the Pacific Northwest, because that's where Leonard Nimoy told me they were in search of. They weren't in Minnesota. So it was a long time after that, probably when I was in my late 30s, that I really started researching Bigfoot, and I started to figure out the signs and symbols and things that people attribute to them. And then I went back up into the same wooded area with one of my children at the time, and looked around, and sure enough, I was seeing these signs like broken trees and structures and things like that I'd never really noticed as a younger man. I just never knew that was peculiar, or never knew what to look for. So I think, and I can't verify it's true, but I think that I had a close encounter with a Sasquatch. Because then I learned also that they weren't just in the Pacific Northwest, they're everywhere. And the only state in the United States that has no sightings of Bigfoot attributed to it is Hawaii. So that means everywhere else, including Canada and Mexico, are having sightings of these huge cryptids that are wandering around. So that was probably my first real big catalyzing event in my life. And then later on in my life as an adult, I moved into a house that was very haunted. Actually, I moved into a few houses that were haunted. So either I picked really bad places to live, or something was following me. I'm not sure which it was, but lots of strange things happened. They witnessed UFO as well. So really some really cool things have happened.
Yeah, man. It's hard to say. Like, I think those experiences like open you up to the belief, and it creates for me, I think, like awe and wonder, and what's really out there, and I think movies play a big part. Seeing movies and stuff, you talking about Bigfoot, Harry and the Hendersons is like the first thing for me that comes to mind. Bigfoot's been like an iffy one for me. I've never gotten really big into it, and it's never really interested me. But there's more interest when it comes to this talk of people saying that like Bigfoot is like a supernatural entity who can like either travel through portals or like cloak itself or go in holes in the ground and things like that. Have you had any of those people on that talk about like Bigfoot being like a supernatural entity?
I'm well aware of the discussions about it. I haven't gone too deep into that myself, but here's the thing. And this is kind of a revelation that happened to me very recently, as a matter of fact. I did a show, we did a podcast about spontaneous human invisibility. And what it is there's apparently a phenomenon that's going on or has been going on, where people are finding themselves invisible to everyone around them for some odd reason, to the point hear them. So they're in this, whether it's a sub dimension or a fraction of the dimension we're in or whatever, but these people are walking around talking to people. They try to get people's attention. No one will talk to them, and they'll go back to where they started, and boom, they're all of a sudden visible, and people are starting to talk to them, and they're like, why didn't you talk to me before? What are you talking about? I was right here. I was yelling right in your face. You didn't even talk to me. And the people are like, you were not here. What are you talking about? This is crazy. So people are experiencing this. And when you think about it, and you may be, more versed in this than anybody, is the idea that in yogic circles and in a lot of Eastern practices, they speak of, and occult practices, they speak of invisibility. And there are apparently methodologies and potential to train a person to become invisible. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know that sounds absolutely way out there, but there is a historical practice in the Eastern religions. The yogis were known to disappear and reappear, and a lot of religions around the world embrace that kind of thing, and shamanistic practices as well. So, what if we're capable of this, and which would make us a very supernatural being in our potential? What if these other beings, such as Sasquatch and stuff, which are believed by many to have human or above human intelligence, what if they've just always known this and can do it at will? So that's my revelation.
Yeah, it brings something new to the table. I mean, as far as like, when I think about having the power to be invisible, it's not really with beings. I'm not really well studied on that. It links to the UFOs, the UFO phenomena, being able to kind of cloak themselves and jump in between dimensions and things like that. Maybe a form of like, it's probably not the same thing, but like astral travel, like being able to kind of like, astrally go somewhere. Maybe their subconscious is going through the motions or thinking that they're awake. And hey, we had a conversation. I mean, how many times does that happen? How many times have you been laying in bed and the alarm goes off and then you hit the snooze, but in your mind, you're up getting ready and getting dressed and eating breakfast, and then the snooze goes off and you're still in bed. Like part of you has to go through the emotions again. I mean, even so, like showing up at work or the drive to work, and you wake up and you're still in your bed, but you could have swore that it was real, but you have to do it again. I mean, so many times that's happened. So this instance of like maybe they're not really being invisible, but maybe their consciousness is going out about their day, having conversations, talking to people. I mean, even with conversations, like I could have swore I told you that, my wife, I told her that in a dream. Like I didn't she doesn't know it, but in the dream we had this conversation. That's a whole nother, realm to look at this stuff too, right?
Sure. Yeah. And then you look at bilocation and things like that. And so apparently the spontaneous human invisibility, well, at least the trained version of it, where it's the esoteric and religious practice, is to imagine this cloud, and it's like as you're meditating or focusing, it turns into like you're standing in this white cloud, and you literally see it. And then you envelop it around you with your will, and then it becomes a shield. And so, you're right, though. I mean, it could just be a simple projection. It could be something else where the consciousness is extending itself, but the person never actually moved. That's certainly possible, and creating thought forms and what have you. But I think it's a good angle.
Yeah, it's interesting, but in kind of linking that to the whole Sasquatch being some type of spiritual or interdimensional beings, and they say the same thing for birds and stuff as well. I'm sure you've heard that, like birds or that, and they try to link it to we don't see enough bird skeletons and dead carcasses as birds as we should, like the ratio, like where do they go when they die, and it would say the same thing about Sasquatch, like why we can't find all of these really for any animals in the wilderness, as far as the ratio to the carcasses that we see, it's like it's disproportionate. So I've heard some of those interviews on Coast to Coast about Sasquatch being there. It's interesting to think about it, but so what about let me ask you about this. So like something that's very interesting to me, and it kind of messes with me at times. I'm like I wouldn't call myself a religious person. I'm more spiritual. I do have like religious background, but just the idea of exploring death. Sometimes, maybe from interviewing these people with different belief systems and backgrounds and stories and books, even like sometimes it messes with me, like death in the afterlife. Like just when you think you have it figured out, you're like, oh damn, and it's still, and as much research and as much study and as much philosophy, you would think that you would have it figured out, and just when you do, you interview another guest and something snaps and this new realm is opened up, whether it's reincarnation, whether there's nothingness. For me, the paranormal is a reassurance of an afterlife, of something else happening on the other side. Right. What about you? Has it helped you at all, like with coming to grips with what happens on the other side, that we do get to live forever? Like some people will say, don't look into that, but for me, it's like, okay, something's got to explain these ghosts. Something's got to explain these demons, these UFOs. Like there's something there that gives us some type of validity, that something continues on. Now, whether it's a record or a stamp, if you will, a recording that's just playing over and over in the ethers of something like traumatic that happened, somebody who died or was murdered or in the house, and it's just playing over. Like those are things to look into as well. But having these conversations, sometimes it messes with me, and and that's when I do open the Bible and read about the reassurance of everlasting life and going to heaven. It gives me this peace. But for you, what has studying the paranormal done for you with a view of the afterlife? What do you think happens, and what has interviewing all these people brought to the table for you?
Well, I think, there's so many different ideas. So like, if you subscribe to the whole simulation theory that this is just a simulation and that we're just playing a part or whatever. I mean, and that's probably true no matter how you look at it, whether it's a computer simulation or if it's spiritual simulation or whatever. I mean, it's just a manifestation of energy either way. So we're having these experiences. I'm always thinking about all of these things, such as these big after death. And, of course, I've read thousands of stories during the Paranormal Portal, and some of the most powerful ones are when these people, and I've experienced this myself, but having visitations by people that they love that have passed away, I think is so cathartic, and it's such a healing thing. People are just devastated mourning the death of their father or their grandfather or something. And then, they're in bed in tears, and suddenly a bright light fills the room and there's this presence and it glows into, there it is, grandpa or dad or whoever. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. Everything's fine. I'll be watching over you. I mean, what a powerful, powerful, incredible experience. And so those are certainly reassuring, but I think that one of the pieces of research that I've done quite a bit of that I think for me is the most reassuring about life after death and the continuation of our life into other expressions, I think is the near-death experiences, especially studied. He did a lot of researching with children.
Who was that name again? I think you kind of cut out right when you said it.
Raymond Moody.
Okay.
Dr. Raymond Moody. And he did a lot of, researching on children having near-death experiences because he'd done a bunch with adults. But his idea was that, we have preconceived notions. Yeah. So if this is just a function of the brain and some kind of visualizations that we've been programmed to receive, maybe that's just, a function of our life force fading and this is it. But what he found was the congruity of that same experience, including meeting loved ones and meeting religious figures like Jesus or whomever, and having these wonderful conversations and hearing, well, it's not your time yet, you have to go back. And then, of course, coming back. And then people having near-death experiences floating above their body, telling, coming back and telling people, hey, I saw you do this, or I was out of my body and I was in the waiting room and I saw you trip over that rug and spill your coffee. And people are like, there's these phenomena are so incredibly powerful. Now, in fundamental physics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It changes form. And of course, form and physicality is just energy as well. So we are a conscious energy, not just a biological mass of energy. So, I think that it's probably the biggest question there is, but then again, it's the one journey we're all going to take.
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's not, it messes with me with having all of these damn discussions, it just keeps it coming up. I mean, it's something that we all, your biological clock is ticking. Like you can't stop time. It's a journey that we all have to take, and it's the fear of the unknown. And for any of us, especially the religious who, there's a comfort there that, when I die, I'm going to heaven, and it's heaven. And this idea of what even heaven is, if it's going to look like this or whatever the case is, which I doubt it. We're going back to energy and essence and light and things like that. So, It messes with me sometimes. I just keep thinking about it and thinking about consciousness, and I get scared, and I just be open about it. Like, my whole thing with consciousness continuing to move on is the fact when I look at here's, and I'll just throw this at you. I've talked to some people, but the thing that messes with me is people who are become what is it, like elderly people who kind of lose the functions of their brain. They have dementia. They forget everybody. They don't know who you are. They don't know who they are. They're just in a state of utter confusion. They're they're not even there. They don't remember their kids anymore. It's very sad. It's something that happens. But for me to think that, like, once they die, once they cross over, they snap out of it. Oh, wow. Yeah. I forgot who I was for like 7 years before I died. I'm here now. That messes with me a little bit, to think about dementia, or to think about, you know, someone trapped in a body who's handicapped, someone who has physical disabilities, who can't speak, who can't move their body, who has to be fed. But when they die, oh, damn, I'm good now. I'm released from this. To think that it's automatically better. We hope it is. You know, so there's these things that kind of, with like consciousness and the afterlife and keep moving. What would your thoughts be on that for someone who has dementia? Like, what happens to them when they cross over? Is there just even more questions the more we talk about this stuff, or what?
Well, in those cases, I've thought about that, because my grandmother had dementia and then she passed, and my cousin had Alzheimer's when she passed, and it's a painful thing for us to observe and to see that confusion and fear and stuff. But going on there, and this is just a hypothesis, obviously, but I just think that, you know, there's many types of death, and there's many types of passing. And I think in those cases, as the physical mechanism of our body fails, and especially I think the brain is like a focal point, in a sense, to our soul to express in this realm. And I think what could be going on is, as that damage happens, that calcification and such happens in the neural pathways, that perhaps the transition has already happened to a degree, but they still have an anchor in the body. So I think that in a large sense, probably their soul has largely moved on. I would like to believe that, because, of course, having watched people I love suffer, you know, I don't want to think that they're trapped in there in that state of fear and confusion. So I hope that I'm right in that they're not. Part of that conscious energy is still there and really doesn't know what to do. And the great liberation then, of course, is when the body does eventually pass. But I think that maybe they're already passed, but their body just doesn't know it yet, or just takes a little more time.
That's interesting you say that. You know, I came on your podcast and shared my story about, you know, teetering between the realms. You know, and so it's almost like a part of me was dying. You know, a part of my spirit was crossing over early, and I was stuck in like a teeter-totter between the realms. And so it's interesting that you say that that part of us can live in this next life, or this next realm, and we're kind of, I think a true shaman is one who's able to go back and forth between the realms, you know, and try to hold their sanity and not get lost over there and make it back, you know. When we talk about spirits and death in the afterlife and evil spirits and stuff like that, it could be scary, because, you know, some people don't make it back, of going between the realms and making pacts with deceptive spirits, if you will. But being one who's like stuck in between, like even now, not when we die or we reach this place in life, but young people or people who's opened up doors and they're not all that there anymore. Like part of them is living in another realm, you know, maybe schizophrenia, you know, and, you know, there's definitely a borderline to what, like we're talking about, people who are able to remain sane and keep their sanity talking about all this stuff. The majority would just throw all of this stuff out of the window. They don't even look into it. But for those who are like on the fringes even of reality and exploration, they literally live in the other realms. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot to that. And, you know, I think, you know, we probably within us all have this truly a multidimensional consciousness. We just we're blinded in so many ways to it, whether it's the pace of the world, whether it's the pace of our lives, whether it's the physical distractions or media or any number of things that may pound us into this 3 dimensions. But I think we're probably meant to be that interdimensional reality. We just haven't quite figured out how to unlock that as a society. I think that individuals do, and we all probably do in moments in our life. It's just maintaining that focus, I think, is what we have to learn to do while being incarnate. I think we did. I think that's why there's like this fascination with the ancient ways, the ancient world. I think that they understood it a lot more than we do now. and there's like a resurgence to spirituality, to the paranormal, to asking these bigger questions. As we become more technologically advanced, we're moving away from nature and from these natural God-given abilities, again, to leave your body, to project your consciousness, to, manifest, and all of these weird spiritual abilities that we have that people focus on. I believe that they were commonly known by our ancestors, whether it was the Native Americans or the Mayans or the Aztecs, whoever. They had this spiritual technology that they all understood. And that, for me, is a call to the paranormal. And it gives proof that there is or was something that exists beyond the five senses, right?
Yeah.
Is there a link there to you, spirituality in the paranormal?
Absolutely. And again, I think that's the breadcrumbs. Those are the reminders. I mean, I think that a lot of times paranormal things happen and they frighten people, of course, because things are happening that they're not really, they're so far outside of their paradigm, they don't know how to process it. But I think that a lot of times it can just be a wake up call. Like, come on, it's time to quit being so cosmetic, quit being so shallow, and realize you are multidimensional. You are a part of the divine light of the universe. And here you are just focused in your little microcosm. And that's not the way it's supposed to happen. So I think that in many cases, it happens because it's supposed to, because people have to get shook out of their reverie and out of, blindness, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, for me, maybe you and many other people listening, like, it was done at an early age. It just it lit a spark within you to ask the bigger questions. I mean, some people go their whole life without even questioning this stuff. I guess as a phone, I think some of this stuff lends to, if we're not careful, escapism as well. Of like religion, for sure. Like I need to have some type of answer about what happens on the other side, and it's like the first thing or the best thing. Whatever religion that you subscribe to, you just believe it. And there is a blessed assurance, right, that kind of comes along with it. I mean, you would be silly to act like that. Even me saying that, like, I need to open up the Bible and read about what really happens on the other side. Like, even some of the weird far out, like, reincarnation stuff, like, that's even scary to me. Like, I don't want to be reincarnated as somebody else with another family and another experience. I want to get it right now, whether it's like karmic balance or doing good or passing tests. And the more studying I'm doing it, even within the Bible, I'm looking at, there's like a sortation or something, like where you go from here. I'm not necessarily sure that you get to do it again, like you come back as another child and new family and stuff. And so I do question the reincarnation, even though a lot of people who listen to this and a lot of people I interview believe in it. I'm still skeptical. I believe more that, like, you got a chance to get it right. Don't wait for the next life. Like, get it now. Like, make your amends now. Don't why wait, like, and have to take the same test over in lifetimes and stuff. But the sortation that happens, again, getting into like ascended masters and people who have passed those tests and become spiritual leaders and things like that from the other side, this whole thing of like looking into the Bible with like the great cloud of witnesses and your teachers speaking with you from the other side, like they didn't reincarnate and come again, but they are like on the other side rooting you on, and at times coming through to communicate with you in the dream state as essences, or even through meditation and prayer, or actually physically showing up, like these people coming back and getting into like Eastern thought. That was something that is practiced or believed by the majority of Eastern religions, and Christianity coming from the East, that like it gives some credibility to this, that maybe that's not so far off of something they get to communicate with us from the other side. I mean, you're talking about ghosts and demons and spirits and imps and fairies and whatever. Like, there's all of these entities on the other side. Again, I can't say, but there is escapism. Like, we want to be able to wrap our head and say, okay, that we put things in boxes and we compartmentalize. Okay, that's a Christian. Okay, that's a Muslim. Okay, that's a black guy. Okay, that's what happens when you die. We're instantly with Jesus, and we just get to put a check and just put it to the side and carry on about our lives.
Right. So here's kind of my 2 cents on this. And again, it's just me as a person that ponders this stuff quite a bit as well. And so there's a concept called non-Euclidean space-time is what I think I might be butchering the hell out of it. But anyway, it's the concept that all moments of time. And first, let me just reference a scientific study that was done, and I don't remember the university or when exactly, but it was in the recent past. And what they said is that they were able to create little big bangs, but they said the problem is they'd create it and boom, it disappeared. And the idea of non-Euclidean space-time would say that, yeah, you created a big bang, a universe formed, it lived for its billions of years of life and disappeared in what seemed instantaneously to you. But for this reality that was created, could it have been an entire expansive universe that had billions or trillions or quadrillions of years and then was faded back into nothing? So time to me may be just our understanding of how to measure change. And so instead of thinking about it in terms of I'm done with this life, I have to go to another life. Now I'm done with that life, I have to go to another life as I progress. What if we are not just incarnate in this one life right now, in this eternal now? What if we're already spiderwebbed into all these different experiences and living them in different timelines? Because it's just a vibrational, dimensional kind of concept when you think about potential time-space possibilities. And I'm no physicist, so I could be really, really bastardizing and beating the hell out of this. But in my mind, I kind of think that might be something. So in other words, after this marathon, the last thing I want to do is get on it again. I'm tired, whenever this journey's done, I hope I get the reward that I believe is coming. And I hope I have this eternity of living in this bliss. But so what if we're already expressed in all these other times, and when it's done, it'll be done, know?
That's interesting too, talking about, manifestation, being able to manifest things and will it into your existence, and synchronicity and all of these things tied in, not something that you're going to become, but something that you already are because it already exists. So thinking about universal law and manifestation, like that concept really, fits in, and there's no such thing as space and time. You already have it. You just have to manifest it and kind of bring it into your reality. Now time and the way things work to kind of get that into your life is a trip. Is the Bible says that as long as the earth is here, there will always be seed time and harvest. There will always be like these seasons that come, that if you plant something, even spiritually, you plant it, you birth it, a business, a career, a friendship, a relationship, you birth it, it's going to grow. You have to water it, in everything that we do. So I don't know if it, the time thing is kind of iffy. I've seen things manifest the next day. I've seen them manifest instantly, as far as like, let me put this into the atmosphere. Let me speak it out. Let me believe it as it already is. Not that it's going to come, but it's already out there. And I just have to kind of pull it in, and seeing these things birth or whatever, and living my life that way. And the scriptures and Eastern thought and all this stuff becomes a lot more attractive when you're like, whether it's these different timelines or everything exists, all possibilities exist if you believe it. But if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. But once you believe it, you start to see it. And those things, again, going back to the childhood stuff of having these paranormal experiences, you now have the framework to believe in something otherworldly. So now you're having all of these encounters. I mean,
you are the last party in the conference. You will hear silence until the conference begins.
Thank you, lady. So now you're staring at stars. You know what I'm saying? Now you're watching movies that ignite something within you, right? You watch horror movies or scary movies or things about ETs, and then you start seeing it everywhere, because now you have the framework that it's a possibility, even just for you. Even if it's just for you, even nobody else believes it, that you believe it and you create it within your reality. I mean, that's getting into the belief system of crazy stuff. Maybe that's, again, where the balance, and somebody had a quote, there was some balance between spirituality and schizophrenia. There's like a thin line. believing these things to be true, believing that people are coming for you, believing that, you know, people are listening to you and watching you, and getting in, like, this balance between the realms. You know, it's very interesting song and dance. Have you ever had any close calls or some weird places where you had to take a time off or something, or just got overwhelmed or anything like that?
With the paranormal or with life in general?
Both, I guess. I mean, I think they're linked, you know, especially, you know, being open to these other, you know, realms or ideas, you know.
I think that growling was probably the scariest event in my life that I can think of. I've nearly died several times. I nearly drowned a few times. Yeah, I had health issues and had to battle through those, some of which turned dangerous, but I've made it. And so I think that it all kind of gives you an appreciation for what you are and what you're doing and where you're going. But for the paranormal, I think, you know, something might be wrong with me, to be honest with you, because I've had some really freaky ghost things happen. And now, granted, I've never like stood toe to toe with a incarnate demon or anything like that, but I've had some really freaky things moving, chandelier falling out of the ceiling after I walked under it, things that probably should have frightened me. And I've seen things move and, you know, all of that. I've seen an apparition, but none of it's bothered me. And it's like, I don't know if that means that, you know, on an emotional level, it wasn't meant to, like I really was never in any danger and I somehow intuitively knew that, or if that just means that somehow I'm detuned to being jumpy around that stuff. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to act as if I'm super brave or anything, because I don't know that I am. I'm just, for some reason, when those things have happened, I never felt worried about it. But to me, they just were. Most of the paranormal things that I've experienced for me have served to be affirmations, because I started the Paranormal Portal because I wanted to believe, and I do want to believe, of course, I love this stuff. I wanted to believe that that life still has mystery, that there's still discovery that can happen. The common knowledge today is that the world is mapped, everything's labeled and classified, and the end, let's shoot for space. And I'm like, no, there's just amazing stuff all around us, right around the corner, right behind you, you know, within you. There's so much we still have yet to learn and discover. And to me, that's what the paranormal represents. And that's the excitement of it, is that, you know, I don't want to live in a mundane world where, you know, it's the best you can hope for is 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and, you know, saving your life for the weekends. I want to, you know, have adventure and wonder in every moment of every day, you know. That to me is exciting, and that's what makes every day fun to wake up to. Is that, you know, what will I learn today? What will I hear today? What emails will I receive from listeners today? Because I get so excited about all of those. And when I'm doing the show, who's going to call in? What are they going to say? You know, and it's just this really cool experience of people. Maybe in some cases suspending belief, because some of the stuff is out there. And, you know, by suspending belief, I don't mean that's, you know, we have to suspend the factual. I'm just saying we have to expand our consciousness, or what our set of beliefs is, in order to open up to possibility. Because I think the paranormal is the possibility. And it's, again, the demonstration of the fluid and dynamic nature of our reality.
What about charlatans? What about, have you interviewed people and you like, hold on, I'm calling BS? Like, and some of these people I think are really big names. They're selling books, and like they make it up as they go. And it's definitely in the spiritual, it's in the paranormal, it's in ufology, it's everywhere. It's in the church, you know, it's in Hinduism. It's no matter where you go, you're going to deal with the people who are kind of like muddying up the waters. And they know what sells, they know how to move a crowd. And some of these people are very popular. Like they're making a lot of money, and they're convincing, they're good storytellers. Maybe that's the thing is, hey, I'm entertaining you. I'm giving you guys what you want. You want this stuff, and I'm serving it up, you know, and there's a lot of things like that. Again, I talk about like, there's books that came out in Christianity with like about the afterlife, a kid who died and went to heaven, you know, and they wrote a book, wrote a movie. Years later, the kid said, hey, my parents told me to make this up, you know, and the parents were coaxing the kid. I addressed that in the book as well. But like, have you dealt with that at all? Do you get people on here and you're just like, I'm just...
I can't say that I believe everything everybody has said on the show, but I try to keep an open mind because I know that reality is subjective, and so to them it might be absolutely real, but to me, it's way beyond my my ability to really subscribe to it. But I know that there's a lot of beliefs out there, and some of them to me just seem like really weird. Now, I will say that I've been asked to get certain people on the show that I personally don't believe in, and I don't reach out to those people, and that's just me. I can't, because I want the show to always have an integrity. Like, everything that I present on the show is, if it's not something that I've personally sourced, at least it's presented as factual or true. Now, is it? I can't say, but I've probably read thousands and thousands of ghost stories and such on my show. Are they all true? Probably not. But if only 1% of those, or one fraction of percent, is true, then that is absolutely demonstrating some incredible phenomena, and that to me is exciting. But I mean, once anything becomes a business, I've always have people exploiting it. One of my biggest pet peeves is the psychic craze of the 90s and late 80s. When it became a charlatan's game. Do you take the letter K? Does that mean anything to you? And that all these broad psychological banter questions. Looking for hits and then dialing in on that. The next thing, oh my God, he knew that I had lost my wedding ring and all this stuff. Well, I mean, it's a psychological game. So like, we have a psychic that comes on, and she's actually on this Friday and does free readings. Now, I believe in her because her process is, what's your name and what do you want to know about? So people say, my name is Pete. I'm wondering about my job. And that's it. And then she, will start dialing stuff in. She doesn't sit and ask questions. If she did, I would never have let her have a second appearance. But she's just a wonderful person. Her name is Deb Varner. If you want to check out our show this Friday. But she's just a wonderful person. But of course, there's so many people exploiting everything. I mean, look at Christianity. How many idiots are there out there healing people on stage, in front of coliseums full of people and performing miracles and doing slap fests, and everybody's falling over. It's just it's a production, and that to me is actually sad. That to me it's preying upon people's need to believe in something more and to reinforce their faith. And somebody's just saying, you're going to be fine, but you got to fill out that donation slip, that kind of stuff. To me, that is just horrible. And the New Age movement, when it first came out, it was so full and still is so full of people, and the ideas and the concepts that are being paddled out there. I mean, there's nothing new in New Age. It's just reworked old philosophies, but they put a spin on it, and they get an idea and they add more, and it becomes this ridiculous idea of people, selling snake oil. And so there's always going to be that, and I will never knowingly entertain that on my show. But no, I've been pretty careful in that I have to suspend my own belief system a lot of times on the show, but I try to keep an open mind.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I just try to find common ground, and some friends of mine will hit me up and say, "Man, I watched this video on this time traveler, man, and he's a 14-year-old kid, and you got to have him on the show, man. He got millions of views." I'm like, I don't want to, dude. You'll get so many views. I'm thankful for the little 300 views I got on something that's, of substance or whatever. I don't believe in it all, right? And I'm not saying that, again, like, it's subjective, and it could be telling the truth. Any of these people, the weird thing is that, like, and even with conspiracy theories, like, for the years now, because I was into them, I've like kind of stayed away, like, wanting something of substance that's going to help people. I mean, I want you to ask questions. I want you to Google. I want you to read books. You know what I'm saying? I want to kind of do that, but I want to impart something. Again, the awe and wonder of a ghost encounter. of a ghost story. You hear these stories, and you hear not just ghosts, angels, aliens, all of this stuff. It ignites something within you. It's happened to me, and then I'm being able to pay it forward through, the podcast and through the music and the book and whatever, and it's doing that for other people's. And I'm with you again with the emails and reading them, and man, I can't thank you enough. I was lost. I was this. I gave up on spirituality. I gave up on religion. I gave up on church, whatever. Gave up on God. But I listened to your song. I listened to your podcast, and now I'm like, I feel free. Something's lifted off of me. So I'm like, look, that's it. That's good. It's spiritual. I'm blessing people and and giving hope and stuff like that of some substance. Now we can get into some far out. I'm interested in it all. You know what I'm saying? But you want to be protective over your platform. And it's like, hey, you knowingly entertain this stuff. But again, I mean, that, we entertain it with movies and, ideas like that of, we know this isn't real. We're going to this movie, but we want to, they're good storytellers again, so we want to give them our money and listen. And religion is huge like that. I mean, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about like rebuking the false prophets, right? Mm-hmm. And I got into this thing when I was into like calling out all of the money hungry church guys. I just went on this weird, this journey. And I would call people out by name and do videos on them and just stupid stuff. But then there was a scripture because there's a bunch of scriptures about rebuking false prophets and the liars and false witnesses and stuff like that. But then there was another scripture that said that these people pay these people this money because they're telling them what they want to hear. Mm-hmm. Like it's like these people are looking for, they want to hear that. So it's not like the burden is on the false prophets for deceiving people. The burden is on the people because they're freely giving their money. They're freely paying for what they want to hear, whether it's you don't believe in Joel Osteen or whoever the preacher or guru is. Like, these people want to hear this stuff. Again, what we have going on, I have supporters and patrons, like we're striking a chord. Like, they want to hear this stuff. It's doing something for them. They believe in it, right? So, like, the burden is not on the snake oil people. It's on the people who's promoting them and giving their money to help fund what they have going on. Like, it says that the people have itching ears and they want to hear all of these lies and things like that. So it really changed my focus. It's like, hold on, if you take that guy down, there's going to be another in his place, that the people are going to look for and seek out. So.
No, that's true. And also I think that it's certainly making people aware is one thing, but engaging in that answer, I think it cheapens what we do then if we attack those people publicly, because then we're just a part of the same game. We're just on another end of the spectrum and
giving them free publicity and all kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And but it is tragic that people leverage immortality. They leverage immortality for money, and that to me is terrible. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with making a living doing what you love, and nobody comes and paints your house for free. Well, everybody provides some kind of value to somebody else, and money is certainly a reasonable expectation for that. We all want to make a living doing what we love, but there are people that, of course, take advantage of that to a horrible degree, and they use fear and they use doubt, and they tell you that you're dirty and that you need to be clean, and the only way you can be clean is you got to let me clean you, and so it's there is a lot of vulnerable people to that, because I think that everybody yearns for spirituality. We do. We don't want to just exist in this. We want to exist, in all of it. And we want to be a part, because I think there's maybe a part of all of us that remembers being, one with the God, whatever title or description you give it. And so we're all trying. There's all these people holding signs like, I can get you there. I can get you there. I can get there. And then some of them can. And that's what I think religions are, is they're just different paths up that hill to the pinnacle. And then there's other paths that are going all kinds of screwy places and never getting you anywhere except separating you from your money. And that's unfortunate. And it is a predatory practice, and that's diabolical. I think.
I'm with you. Like, I think you just put it out there. You know, you let people know, look, this is what you like. You know, if you like this, if you support it, you know, and not to like, you know, twist your arm or trick you into giving. So that's the thing with like a lot of the churches have done is like they can't say, hey man, this is what we do, we want to continue supporting it. Like it costs money to keep these lights on, to pay for rent, to pay for the bills, to pay for the pastor. Like if you like this, then support it, because if not, then we have to turn the AC off, we have to turn the lights off, and you know, all this kind of stuff. Just be open and honest. But it's like, you know, they have to trick them into giving. They have to shake. They can't just preach a good sermon and expect the people to give. They have to shake the money out of people, and it's just it's sickening, man. It really is.
It is, and it's profane. But you know, when you use salvation as a currency, then there's something broken.
Yeah, that's a big one too when it comes to like talking people, because I deal with a lot of religious people in the church and coming out of the church or going into the church, like all of these different transitions. But talk like, when the pastor tells you something, like you take it as gospel, you take it as proof, like he's the spiritual authority, the spiritual leader. You don't question that. He's studied. He's a lot smarter than you are. You know, he tells you stuff about what to believe in, but it's not just about what to believe about this life and these facts and these questions, but it's about the afterlife. It's about eternity. So when we come up and we bring something else to the table, well, maybe he's not right. Oh, wait. I didn't only trust this man or this Bible or whatever for my life. I'm trusting it for my afterlife too, for all of eternity. That this has to be what happens. And so there's a lot of fight or flight that happens in the religious community of like, I don't think it's like that. None. And I've seen so many like religious debates and name calling and people getting angry and losing friendships. You know, I've studied this for 7 years. This is it. You know, it's like, oh, I don't think so. But kind of like what we were talking about before we went live, like just seeing like the differences in belief systems and in things like that, and seeing how eclectic people are, and still being able to like have a good conversation or be friends with the person or whatever, which is so, you know, that's where the power lies now. And I'm starting to see that more and more, like the power is in our differences, and that we come together versus all being these lemmings who have the same experiences. And like, it would be silly for me to expect people to believe in any of my encounters or experiences and them have never had it. Yeah. You know, and there is some of those people, they just trust you, or like maybe they trust, you know, I get it all the time. Like, okay, I like your Jesus stuff, but the alien, you lose me at the alien stuff. And they'll tell me, even yesterday, I'm not into the alien stuff. That's fine. You know, I'm not into this, I'm not into that. But it's like, you know, you strike a chord with people, and you know, you have something to offer that helps them. You know, and they're not like, it would be silly but I think the majority is people who have had those encounters, who are seeking out this stuff. Like they're Googling it. You don't have to force them. You don't have to trick them. They're looking up ghost stories, ghost encounters, whatever it is. They find your podcast, they find your music, and it's because they've had a similar experience, or they want to, you know.
Well, you know, there's the other side of it too, is the people that refuse to acknowledge their experiences. You know, they'll have these I can't tell you how many stories I've read on the air. It's like, well, I don't believe in ghosts, but this one time, you know, and they'll go on to describe these incredible events, and it's like, but I don't believe in ghosts. So how do you witness such events and still ignore them? And so, but I think you're right. I think it's that old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Well, the teachers are already there. They are already, you know, available. And sometimes I'm a teacher, sometimes I'm a student, you know, and likewise for you, I'm sure. And you know, people will find us when they're meant to on their own journey. But that's good, and it creates a family of people that are really interested for the right reasons, rather than being out there shouting on street corners trying to get vulnerable people to sign up. You know?
Now, let me ask you this. So do you get this? Because I get it a lot, and I talk about it a lot. I know a lot. I know it's out there. It's definitely out there with the religious community. People will go with you so far until you mention something, and then you lose them. With the religious community, it's like that. Like, they're listening to a podcast like this, they're into it. I love it. Again, oh, you lost me with the alien things. I'm out. Aliens or demons, and you guys are signaling UFOs with your lighters in the, you know what I'm saying? Like, you lose people because of like these different philosophies or religious beliefs, and it happens to me a lot. I have big supporters and friends who were with me, but like, oh, you lost me here. I'm done. I'm removing my support. Not and now I'm kind of your enemy. I'm telling people to stay away from you. You know, just because it's not, nothing has changed. Like this, I've been talking about this same stuff for years. Now, you maybe not have seen those episodes or have heard me talk about this stuff, but once you find out, they're gone. Like, they're gone.
Right.
Do you get that a lot too? It's definitely with the religious, but do you get it a lot too?
Oh yeah. I get, I don't do as much on the religion end on the Paranormal Portal because, I don't, I'm not prepared to or knowledgeable enough to try to teach people about religion, but I do try to teach people spirituality, if that makes sense. There's definitely a distinction, but I get people that are like, I like the Bigfoot shows. The ghost ones are okay, but man, when you start talking about UFOs, I ain't into that stuff. It's like, well, how can somebody believe that there are these intangible people walking around, moving stuff, creating havoc, possessing people, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and then out in the forest there's 10 feet tall hairy apes wandering around and raising havoc, but they can't get around the idea that there could be a flying saucer? It's like, how come you suspend belief for that one thing? What is it about that one thing that you can't wrap your head around? But we, of course, and then there's the people that want to, they want to create your presentation into what they want. You need to do more of these shows and less of those, and you need to change this music. And I use my own music for the shows, and I get a lot of support from people. I really like that song. What is it? Because they can't find it. And then I get the other people like, man, whoever wrote that is absolutely tone deaf. That is so pitchy and terrible. You got to get rid of that garbage. It's wrecking your show.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the crazy thing too, because I get both, and like, people say I have a long intro, and you need to have a shorter intro. It's too long. Blah 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 blah. I play my music in it, and then other people are like, "That's the song," and then they message me, what I'm saying, what song is that? Who is that singing and on the chorus? And I was like, or the intro. I'm like, that's me. So it kind of like, I get to show them my work too. Yeah. But you get those messages, hey man, the intro's too long. Just jump into it. Or they'll post it. I've seen some of these where they'll post in the comments like the timestamp where the interview starts. They'll get past your intro, the music. They'll get past your Patreon. I was like, to timestamp it, because if you click it, the guest comes in at 5:07. Click this, and it'll jump right to it. It's like, hold on, like without the Patreon and without the commercials or whatever, like this doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? So you need to listen to that and support. Like I'm saying it for a reason, and thanking those people for supporting for a reason, But you get all that stuff and trying to go back and forth and trying to decipher. But it always works out when you just do what you feel led to do in your gut, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's certainly it's our unique paths, and it's we're just putting on the best shows that we know how to do. I mean, we're not Hollywood. We're just guys that with a whole lot of ambition and a dream to do something special, and so that's what these shows are about. Yeah. And it's blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, there's nothing easy about this. You got to keep an unknown number of people entertained for a period of time, and you struggle with that, and you struggle with concepts and ideas, and these things don't pay for themselves.
Yeah. There was a guy one time, he hit me up and shout out. It's hard to mention stuff without hoping that they don't get offended. But I had this one guy who was listening. He was like, he's like, man, it must be nice, man. I love to sit up and talk to hot women all day on the podcast. I was like, oh, well, do it. Like, if you can start a podcast. Who you think I am? Like, you think I'm like there's money or machine behind me? Do it. Like, if you want to sit up and talk to hot women all day, do it. Create it. There's a niche for it. There's people who will listen. Yeah. And but yeah, whatever it is, just creating it. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the phone lines now. We had some people call in earlier who weren't able to get through.
The conference will automatically end in 5 minutes.
I got to figure out how to use this turbo bridge. I think I don't know. This is I don't even know.
I
bro.
wish I was better at it, but I set up mine.
Goodness.
I'm piggybacked on TFR, so I have my own line. So I didn't do it, the setup of it.
Man, I don't know what to do.
Conference is in presentation mode.
Oh my
There is
goodness.
one party in the conference.
Ah, Lord, I don't know what to do. Wait. I know I gotta. Okay, so are you hearing the echo of me now? No. Good. Okay, so maybe that'll work. I don't know. Anybody who wants to call in now, we'll open up the phone lines. Hopefully you have more than 5 minutes. We'll see. But the phone lines are open. The number is 251-263-0001. Yeah, click that link. It's on all the podcasting and streaming apps if you want to call in. Share your paranormal stories, paranormal experiences, ghost stories, view of the afterlife, whatever it is that you want to talk about, man. The phone lines are now open and we'll be able to take your call. Looking back over like childhood, like combing over, like doing the inner work and getting over stuff and wanting to find out like where did this fascination with this come from, you know? I look back over my childhood and nostalgia a lot. The 80s and 90s and these horror movies were huge for me. Still love them. Most of what's coming out today I can't stand. You know, I try to watch it hoping that we'll get a good horror movie, but they're few and far between these days. I feel like we don't see animatronics and puppets and stuff no more like we did in the 90s, which I loved it. Even if it was just like some, you know, just one, you know, even if it was poorly done, which there was so much that were done good. It's just so different than like CGI and stuff. We watched, and I can't pronounce this name. We've been pronouncing it different every time we say it. But yesterday with my daughter, I watched The Curse of La Corona or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Which was pretty good. It was a pretty good movie. A lot of jump scares is what they're focusing on now, but I try to trace where this stuff comes from. Even the fascination with the other side and the paranormal and the occult and spirituality or religion or whatever, afterlife. I had this encounter when I was a kid, man, and I remember it, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Like, I remember walking through the neighborhood in Springfield, Louisiana, and we're walking through, and there was this house where these people were moving out of, and it had a bunch of stuff piled up outside. A lot of it was in garbage cans, and we're just, man, we had to be like 8, 9, 10 years old, something in there, 8 or 9, something. And we walked by there, and we started going through the stuff, and there was clothes and a bunch of stuff. That happened a lot. There was like random piles of belongings. Say we just rummaged through it as kids and find Playboys, like you find all kind of stuff. We found this magazine or this book, and I remember it, and we opened it up and we were looking at it, and it was some type of occult book. Like there was a pentagram on it, don't know the name of it, but it was a bunch of images, a bunch of pictures of demons and crazy, and we're just like little kids, and we found this, like, what is this? Ooh. And I'm fascinated. You know, I like scary movies and scaring people and stuff, and we're just looking at it. And it felt like we were doing something we wasn't supposed to be doing. There was this one image of like this naked lady on a cross with like a wolf head or whatever. It was like some sadistic pentagrams and baphomets. And I remember one page being of like vampires on a page. It was just crazy stuff. And it felt like we're not supposed to be doing this, you know? And the house next door, there was a Rottweiler behind the gate, and the gate was a lattice fence, the wood lattice with like the X's or whatever, and and this dog was barking at us like really loud, aggressively. So we're looking at this book like, what is this? There's like weird paranoia there. Then we look, and the dog goes hoo, 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 like he wants to tear us up. We're like, oh man, this is weird. We didn't know what we should do. All of a sudden, that dog jumps through the lattice, and he busts through the fence. It busts. Like Cujo out of a horror movie, or The Sandlot even, jumps through the fence to lash at us. But he had a collar on, and his collar, the chain wasn't long enough to catch us fall, and so it caught his neck, and so this dog is like choking, and while we're holding this satanic book, and we're like little kids, what's going on? and the dog like dies, and we just throw the book down and we run off. And I'm looking back at that, and I remember the movie The Gate. The Gate was one of the first scary movies that kind of opened me up. And there was a scene in there where they kind of did a ritual that summoned these demons and opened these portals unknowingly. Like they did a levitation spell and did a bunch of like a blood sacrifice, like dude cut his hand and touched something, and they did a levitation thing at a party, and they read this book, and it was like, it had the tutorial to how to summon these ancient demons. And so I look back at like that experience that I had, and it's like, it was almost like this sacrifice that happened while we're holding this book about ritual and sacrifice. And I look back on it, it's like, man, this stuff is crazy, putting two and two together. And like, part of me, it's just the wonders of the mind. Like, I don't necessarily believe it, but it's like, was that a sacrifice that we took part in somehow, of some entities trying to come through? We had this book. Like, it's really crazy, man. Would you have any thoughts on that?
Well, the funny thing is that, of course, I look into some of the dark stuff as clear of it as I can, because I'm necessarily terrified of it or anything, but I just think, you got to be careful whenever you're messing with the spirit world, because we don't really understand it real well. So I try to be respectful in all of my approaches. But I have learned that, or at least it's claimed, that in satanic circles, one of the things that they allegedly do, especially around ritual sites, is leave objects that are quote unquote cursed
objects,
or bound, and they try to get people to find them. Of course, there'll be items of some value. Could be a nice knife out in the wilderness near an area where they practice or whatever. Somebody comes along, picks it up, and next thing you know, you got an attachment of some kind. I think there's definitely low vibrational energies. There's definitely evil. I don't know if I subscribe to the idea that there's this omniscient presence of evil. I just think that there's definitely darkness, and that can be manifest in many different ways. But yeah, I think in what you're describing, it sounds exactly like what happened. I mean, that you're saying that it could be the function of a young mind, but there's circumstances, and then there's circumstantial. I mean, that's definitely into the really creepy area of circumstance to me.
Yeah, it's interesting just to look at like how my life played out and got into these things, and I mean it. What I'm saying, what you focus on becomes your reality. Yes. We're talking about manifestation. Like, you begin to believe it, you see it. Like I said, I mean, I have so many encounters at this point, and I trace them all back to this one. The encounter when I was 4, encounter when I was 8. And you look at these different things. Encounter when I was 13. I talked about on your show having literally an entity appear, knock us to the ground. These, like, what that did for me, changed my life forever. Having UFO and alien encounters and feeling like I facilitated it, changed my life forever. You know what I'm saying? All of these things. And so you start looking for it, and there's like repeatability. And I think what about that? Repeatability, seances, like we're going to contact the dead, we're going to summon UFOs, which is a big one that I got into. Like when it comes to the paranormal spirits and repeatability, do we need to be careful? You don't contact them, you let them contact you. I've had listeners who love the show and love my work, and they're like, they contact me grieving, they lost a child. And they want to talk to them. They want to tell them they love them. They want to conjure them up. And I'm like, I don't know if you should. Like, I want to encourage exploration, but I don't know if you should. So people like, you talking to the dead, ghosts or demons, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, we're not supposed to conjure the dead. There's a difference when the dead contacts you, though. Like, repeatability, conjuring the dead, seances. Where do you stand in all that? Again, we got to be careful, but we don't want to stifle exploration, is what I say.
Well, I think that's, so let's just take, for instance, the Ouija board. Yeah. Now, a Ouija board, you get it, and people are afraid of that intrinsically. They just think because it is labeled a Ouija board that must mean that it's, you know, evil. And I would maintain that, look, a Ouija board right out of the box is about as dangerous as a Homer Simpson placemat for your cereal bowl. It's just a design printed on a piece of material. Now, there is, I believe, proper ways to do those things, and then there's improper ways to do them. Ouija boards are on the box recommended for eight and up, ages 8 and up. I think that's insanity.
Yeah,
you don't want your, you know, go to your room, Becky, and you contact Grandma and tell her what you did. You know, that's just wrong. The kids should not be messing with spirituality or summoning spirits at all. But the problem with any kind of esoteric practice like a Ouija board is that, especially a Ouija board, is that you're creating a blind channel. You know, you don't know what you're talking to. You have no idea. You put your hands on a planchette. 99% of the time, nothing's probably going to happen. 1% of the time, you might make contact with something. And that something may pretend to be what you want it to be, what you need it to be. But you don't know what you're talking to. Now, here's the problem with a Ouija board. If indeed something does come through, you've created a blind channel. You're basically saying, use me to move this planchette around. I don't think the planchette moves by itself, but I think it's some kind of energetic or subconscious principle that the spirits can activate in us. Either they're utilizing our energy to do it, or they're utilizing our body to do it. I think that a truly real experience is, you know, indeed a contact. But you're blind channeling. And most people don't know how to open a session properly or close it. And I maintain you should never open a portal you don't know how to close. And so most people think, look, you drag the plastic over, goodbye, and you're done. Well, no, you're not done. You have created an energetic attachment and connection.
A door. A portal to the paranormal.
Amen, brother. So I think that if you don't know how to close it, don't open it. And there are proper ways to set a situation up where you could probably use it without any kind of problem. And that includes cleansing your environment, prayers, ritualistic objects like whether it's crosses, crucifixes, or whatever. But you got to set your stage. You've got to set up barriers and keep negative things out. And then if you want to reach out and try that, you can. You know, I lost my dad a couple of years ago, and that was, you know, it's hard because he and I had a good life together and a bad life together. I mean, we had rocky roads, and it was tough because, you know, upon his passing, I never really closed that chapter. And I had this feeling like I never got to say that, you know, I'm sorry for, you know, when I was a dick and being a problem. And of course he never had as well. However, about 6 months after he passed, I believe very, very strongly that he came to me in a dream. And I was asleep, and all of a sudden, boom, I was in their house. I was in my mom and dad's house. And it was as real as me sitting here with you. It was incredibly lucid and powerful. Everything was absolutely real. And I walked out of the kitchen and into the living room, and there was standing my dad. And it was like, Dad, where you been? And he put his arms out like he wanted to hug me. Now, this is a man throughout the course of his life had been very stoic and didn't really do a lot of that. And here he was wanting to embrace me. And it was just this beautiful moment. And we talked, but it was almost like I would talk and whatever he was saying it didn't come from his mouth. It just came into my head. And you know, I of course apologized for not being the best son that I could have. And I was so sorry if I ever hurt him. And he gave me the same thing back. And it was this incredibly healing, cathartic moments of having that closure and having that experience. Now, was it real? I really believe it was. Maybe that's because I need to believe it was, but I really believe it was real because it was as vivid as what I'm doing right here, right now, and even more so in many cases. And after that, I have this incredible feeling of healing now when I think of my dad and my relationship with him. Yeah. Instead of that scar and that pain and that sore that I was carrying for all these years. So I think that they will come to you, like you're saying. Wait till they come to you. And then a lot of times, for most of us, it'll be through dreams because we're not psychic. Well, I mean, everybody's psychic, but a lot of us don't know how to tune into that in our day-to-day lives because our lives are loud and busy and fast and stuff. So pay attention when you're dreaming. Maybe go to sleep and send out the message. Boy, I'd sure like to have a chance to talk to you and to hold you one more time, whatever. And maybe it'll happen.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. It's something, I mean, that is the religious experience. Like that is, it's the closure. It's the, it's the reassurance that, hey, everything's okay with me and my dad now. If it really happened, if it, whatever caused it to happen, if it was an apparition that you created it, you wanted it so bad that boom, he's here. Wow. Whatever it, getting to the bottom of it is very, interesting. And I've heard and seen a lot of things like that. Like a lot, if you're looking for it, it shows up. And my wife, she sees hummingbirds a lot and on bumper stickers, and it reminds her of her mama, who was very close to her, and she just loved hummingbirds and had all that kind of stuff. And and it's just when she sees it, there's a reassurance. There's smells that kind of bring you back and remind you of certain people and, right. songs or whatever. And they're there. I think they live on even through that stuff, like the nostalgia or just, living on through a picture or, all of that stuff kind of becomes a portal, whatever
right.
it is to remind us that they're there if they want to be, reminded or not reminded, but remembered even. Right.
Right.
We was talking about like, the portals and the Ouija board and opening up doors and trying to contact, the other side and stuff. When I was a teenager, again, you just talking about teenagers shouldn't really get into this stuff or kids, but that's when we look into it. Some people is like, yes, I'm 35 and I just got into this. Like most of us is just like this lifelong infatuation, right? That kind of, dictates the course of our life. We're doing these podcasts and these interviews and stuff, but when I was really big into it, to the occult and the dark side of the occult and opening up my mind to portals with entities and basically my life became a Ouija board. My body became a Ouija board of doing these spells and incantations and chants and things like that to see whatever would come through. There was a practice that I did. I don't do this much now because of what it used to be. And I know that all things can be renewed and used for good or evil. I do believe that the Bible is pro divination, that there's divination practices that were used in the Bible of casting of lots, of clairomancy and the rolling of dice, and this is the will of God or the Holy Spirit is speaking through these dice. And I cover it in my book, and it's very controversial because you don't really hear anybody talking about this, but I think it was a practice that was promoted. When we hear that term now, most people, divination is satanic, don't do it. But it's called the practice of dowsing even, and people asking questions or looking for the water and the sticks moving. There's people who use dowsing rods on YouTube and Facebook, and they go live and they just let people ask questions. They'll hold these two rods in their hand, and if they if it's a yes or no, the rods will come together. If it's a yes, if it's no, it'll go away. And people are just sitting there asking. So again, you're talking about the energy is that the spirit is a spirit coming through, moving with, using your energy, their energy, whatever it is to move it, or are you using it to move it? And I say that because the practice that I used to do, I used to use a pendulum. I had a pendulum, but it was really my necklace. I had they say use something close to you, but I had a necklace that I would always had and had my energy, and it had a bunch of different little trinkets on it and stuff. But I would hold it, and I would do this at parties and show people and stuff. But the biggest part of it was like me, like wanting to know for myself, am I in contact with something? But I would hold it up, and a lot of people do this kind of stuff. I don't really mess with it too much anymore, but I would hold it up and I would ask yes or no questions, and I would try to be as still as I could, and I would say, is there a spirit in the house? And it would just and it would blow my mind. And then I would ask a different question, and it would stop on a dime. and I would ask a different question, and then it would change. It would say no. It would start going back and forth. I got to this point where I would put on this song by Marilyn Manson. It was his intro to the Portrait of the American Family album. And I would put it on and I would say, can you make this go in a circle? Can you make it swing? And the intro to it is actually his version of the rowboat song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. There's no earthly way of knowing which direction we are rowing. There's no knowing where we're going. But Manson did it, and the music starts off real light, and it builds up, and it gets aggressive and crazy and crazy. And I would say, if there's a spirit in here, can you make this go in a circle? And this thing will go, whoo, whoo, whoo. And I'm just sitting there like, what is going on? But then now we're looking at this with the rational mind. I got into demonic possession. It got really bad for me. I needed help. That's why I got into the church, ran to Jesus. But now I'm thinking about it. Did I already know the answers to the question when I said that yes or no question? Did I use a form of telekinesis to make it say yes or no? I wanted it to go sideways. I'm imagining it go sideways, go in a circle, bigger, bigger, bigger. Like, did I do it? And I was attributing it to a spirit. Those are some of the questions. And I know that's what we're talking about with the Ouija board and our will and our intention and our emotion, if it's connected. But that throws a wrench into it to say, what's really happening. We find what we're looking for. I was looking for this to spin around, but I was looking for a spirit to do it. What do you think?
Well, I think that we are spirit, right? So we often surrender our own power in lieu of something else to have power. But I think that, I think that we are in all things. Like I think that we truly manifest our reality, and we manifest whatever we believe. So a part of you, see, there's a thing called muscle testing. I went to school for massage therapy years ago, and it was a really cool, really medicalized version that is today. But we did a lot of Eastern philosophy studying and learning about polarity therapy and meridians and chakras and all of that. And there's something called muscle testing, which is very similar to whether you use a pendulum or you use the dowsing rods or whatever divination you use that has to do with you being in contact with something. But muscle testing is just like you generally would do it for someone else. And it's basically, you could like even test your own arm. Like you could hold it up and then, is it okay to muscle test, yes or no? And if it's solid, that's a yes. If it's weaker, that's a no. And then you can ask yourself questions like, and what it is not necessarily a spirit that you're communicating with. The idea is that you're communicating with your higher self, your higher vibration of yourself. And so that's the way to bypass all of our prejudices and world, and being so isolated in this experience. We're actually touching a higher part of ourselves. I know a lot of people that swear by it. They muscle test themselves all the time because they are really receiving really good guidance from their higher self. Now, when you break it down really esoterically, is there anything that isn't you? And that's where it becomes kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
So we are all things. We are all interconnected with everything. Like I am you, you are me, I am my desk, I'm the microphone. And you can find yourself in everything through meditation, through practice and searching. And perhaps that's the key to moving objects and having them move, is that you're resonating with a part of yourself in there and creating that circuit. I think all of that. I believe in so many things. I believe that we are literally these amazing, incredibly potent and powerful beings that have become conditioned to believe that we're not. So, but yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, we're anytime anything like that happens, we're just remembering who we are or who we were at some point. It's still in our DNA, the sixth sense and all that stuff. Just kind of, and there's things that happen or movies we watched that reactivate that, or we remember. It's in our DNA. Wow. And I'm gonna, everything's linked together, and just following the breadcrumbs with the divination and with all of that stuff. I believe that what makes something good or evil, positive or negative, is the intention. Like it's charged by the intention. So for me, like, my intention when I was a kid was to make to have a spirit come through and let him do it, right? Versus using that for the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Maybe it's something I can use now. I have a pack of tarot cards that are called the Tarot of the Most High, and I've used this in some psychic readings and stuff, and had my mind blown of how everything just kind of laid out for the person that I was talking to, and they didn't even know I was doing it. It was just something personal. Like, I'm trying to use this spiritual technology that's given to us, and we're linked into it, and there's a connection there, right? So the intention of what you're using it for makes it good or evil. Like prayer, is prayer good or evil? Prayer is it's not biased. You can use it to pray to Satan. You can pray to demonic entities. You can pray to aliens. You can pray to God. You can pray to Jesus. You can pray to the Holy Spirit. You can pray to Allah. Whatever you want. You use that vehicle of prayer, and your intention and how you're using it makes it good or evil.
Right.
The same thing with meditation.
Your phone is not good or evil. It's just a matter of who you're calling, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
And again, the Bible says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." It's like, there's this place of innocence and childlike faith, but we learn from that stuff. And the scripture also says that to the pure, all things are pure. But for that to be true, then the opposite has to be true as well. To the the impure, all things are impure. So we talk about this stuff, and it's straight demonic. Everything's demonic. Like, demonic gets the devil gets a bad rap, and I talk about the devil a lot, or the the negative side of reality. And for there to be a positive, there has to be a negative. For there to be a light, there has to be a dark. It doesn't mean that it's evil. The devil is evil, but to see how all of these things kind of work together for our good, and just the contrast and the polarities that exist, and you use it to your own detriment if you don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, we manifest our reality whether we're aware of it or not, and we manifest it through our belief. And so if you have a belief things are crappy and things are going to hell, then they are. For you, they are. However, your neighbor could believe that everything's wonderful, and it will be for them. And you're living in the same community. So, you're just seeing a different world based upon your focus on it.
Yeah.
That is what you're manifesting. So, yeah, I agree. I think there are a lot of negative and low level beings out there that will take advantage of our inability to master our own expression in this world, and or our unknowing, I guess, our ignorance of it. But I think that's kind of where this all goes. Now, the Paranormal Portal, I don't focus a whole lot on esoteric development, but I'm very, very much attuned to it and working on it and researching it. But it's just never been part of my scope, just because, I guess I haven't taken that journey. I do drop my own all of the time. And I have quite a few of them. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong on any of them, but I know that they are what makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. And just being open to look into it, you know, and to ask the other questions, and not being so sold that this is the way, that this is the only truth. And people say, well, TruthSeekah's preaching that every religion points to God. His guest said it earlier. He didn't correct him, and all this kind of stuff. Is like, hold on. I can't really give you an educated answer, give you an opinion. But the fact of the matter is, I haven't practiced every religion. I don't know where they lead or end up. I know that I did this, and this, and I have an educated opinion to give you on that. The rest of the stuff is just theory and what I heard or what I saw or what my pastor said or whatever the case is. But to really be open and honest to look into all of this stuff, and consciousness is key. And perception is reality. The way we look at stuff and what we've been told in our bias or whatever the case is, it changes everything, and it's changing daily. You know, it should be anyway. There's some people stuck in their ways that it's just, you know, black people are this and white, you know, Christians are this or pastors are that. Like, just to be open. You know, again, we talked about before we went live, like people, even you having me on, at first thought it was going to be some religious, like, rebuking all of the paranormal and watch out for the demons and, you know, and all of these kind of things. And to go back to the devil thing, there was a point I was trying to make, but Padawan says in chat, he said the devil is evil. Christ didn't lie about that. But to finish my point of what I was saying is that I think the devil gets a bad rap because you guys are giving the devil credit for something that he didn't do. Like, you're dealing with your karma. You're dealing with things that you've created, things that you've manifested into your reality because of your actions. That's on you. That's not on the devil. He ain't even... Now I believe it's the devil and these negative forces that come and deliver your karma. Like the spiritual entities that kind of, okay, let's go here. Okay, the time is changing. Move it. All right, set this up. Blah, blah, blah. You know, all in the sovereignty and sphere of God and the divine and the song and dance. There's devils and entities and angels and imps and beings and all kind of stuff that kind of play in this ecosystem. But I think that the devil gets a bad rap for the most part because you're just dealing with your own karma and blaming the devil. Change your actions, change the way that you're responding to people, change the way that you're looking at things. Again, this people, the cup is half empty or half full. Like, what is it to you? I'm thankful that there's a cup or there's water in it. You know, some people just squander it away. They don't care. Their mind, their talent, squandering away talent. I know people that would love to, like, be able to play guitar, to be able to sing, to be able to rap. But then I know other people who have those amazing talents and abilities and they piss them away. They put it down never to return to it because of offense, because of something that happened, or because of drug use and things. Like, man, there's people who would kill for just a portion of what you have, you know? And it's just like this spectrum of being thankful and grateful for what you have, and gratitude kind of coming along with that. That is the fuel for the faith and for the spirituality and for all of this stuff, is to, you know, if this spirituality and paranormal is not practical at the end of the day, and if it's not going to just like, if it can't help you, then we're just kind of, it's like pipe dreams and theories and things like that. But I think that it does play into our day-to-day reality of faith and inner knowing and awe and wonder at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, you know, I'll go on record saying that I believe that all the religions that try to teach goodness and a path to the divine do. I don't know if there's one faster than the other. I don't know about that, but I think that people use the devil as an out. It's like, well, I didn't do it. The devil did it. I don't have to own that. It wasn't
blame it on the rain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that you have to create, at the very least, you have to create circumstances that the devil can do it to you. Because I don't think that if you're living in your virtue and in your morality and in a good path in your life, and if you're making the best decisions, that suddenly something can come and just strip that away. I don't know that's possible. Maybe it is. Again, I'm just speculating, but I think that to blame some universal concept of evil that is omniscient and nearly as powerful as the divine, to me is more of an affront. I just don't think that exists in the.
Well, he has some rules and stipulations.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you what they say in the church. They say that the devil doesn't know what you're thinking. But he only knows what you say and what you do. And then they say about this devil that he's not like God. He's not omnipresent. He can only be at one place at one time. So
he's everywhere, according to some people.
I know there's some of these weird rules and stipulations. And so they say, well, that's why you pray in tongues, because he can't understand tongues. You hear all these weird things about how to like get over on the devil and trick him and stuff. He comes to collect though, man,
Yep.
Like, when we're talking about manifestation, we're talking about positivity and creating that kind of stuff. And it's big for me. And it's big for all of us if we know it. We're already master manifestors and we don't even know it. Like our life, and most people are just by default, they're in bad situations and they don't know how to get out of it. They've played a part in it. There's a victim mentality that comes on, but they've played a part in that. When you understand that, you can play a part in getting yourself out of it too, in creating the life and the job and the friendships and the community that you want for yourself, by stop entertaining BS and negativity and all of that kind of stuff. We play a part in that. So when it comes to music and it comes to the words that we speak and things like that, it plays a big part. There's a rapper. There's all these eerie stuff. So have you looked into this Juice WRLD thing that just happened? No. There's two interesting things that kind of come to mind when thinking about that. So they say he just died of a seizure. He's a big rapper, and he died of a seizure on an airplane. And so looking back over some of his songs were really interesting about death, about dying, but dying of a drug overdose. Come to find out that it wasn't a seizure, that he died of an OD on an airplane. Maybe he ate a bunch of pills and rather take that way out versus going to prison forever. I think he had 400 pounds of marijuana on an airplane that was getting seized, and they say he killed himself. I don't know, but listening to his lyrics, there's videos of him, music videos going to his own funeral. Like all of his friends remembering him at a funeral, and then the next morning he's there by himself, like his ghost is still there. Lyrics talking about, these drugs got me feeling weird. I think I'm about to die. Today is my last day. I only live to get high. Like all of these cryptic things about dying. Tupac was known for, faking his own death. Just so the whole Machiavelli thing was interesting, but talking about death, I'm gonna die in this crazy fashion, and I'm getting close to I'm not going to live to see tomorrow. Like putting all of this stuff within their music and lyrics, and they're repeating it, and they're kind of creating it as they write it, creating it as they speak it. Again, going back to this recent one, Juice WRLD, saying that he died of a seizure. His body was convulsing, right, taking all these pills. There was a challenge that just came out on TikTok, is the kids app, and the challenge is called the Juice WRLD Challenge, or the Stuttering Challenge. And so they're playing some of his music, and then it starts skipping, and so it's the seizure challenge. And you have water in your mouth or milk, and you're just going about your whatever you're doing. And then the part in the song plays in the app where it skips, and the person goes into a seizure, and they just start spitting water and milk everywhere. I don't know why, but it was a fad in the last 2 or 3 weeks with TikTok, the app. And then it comes out that and it was his song, that he died of a seizure. Now there's this big back catalog of people almost like mimicking his death, in a sense, of creating this into the ethers. Wow. And man, what do and that's why I'm so vigilant and vocal about pushing positivity and angelic contact and beauty, creating your best life, walking in awe and wonder and love for all beings. Like, I'm vocal about that for a reason. It's intentional. Like, have you heard of any stories? I mean, there's so many, especially in the music industry, of putting out these cryptic messages and then it happens,
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that, we are individual manifestors and creating our life on a very fundamental level. But I think that with other people combining energy, I mean, basically, the spell work of the ancient magicians and the current magicians, anybody that practices the occult practice of magic, whatever form that is. Magic is just a fancy way of saying aimed intention. There's ritual involved with it, but ritual is largely symbolic, meant to focus the will towards a means. So I mean, the idea of spell casting is more broad than most people think. I mean, you don't need to draw these arcane symbols and do these weird gestures and say these one words. I mean, we all cast spells. I mean, that's our manifestation. We're manifesting. We call it manifesting. The old times, they called it spell work or magic. But I think that once people, focus a will on something, sure, they could manifest it. I've heard of people changing the course of hurricanes. The last hurricanes that were coming out, people were, gathering their will and doing these whole groups of people talking about push it back out to sea, so it doesn't come inland. And sure enough, it would, kind of go up the coast, offshore, and or largely offshore. And I think that was just this last hurricane season that happened. And I heard all these people working on combining their will to keep it out to sea so people wouldn't get hurt. I think that we have that ability. I think we really do. I think that the world is just a canvas, and we can paint on it, and we don't have to stay in the lines. We can paint whatever you want.
I think that's what our podcast and stuff does. It'll show you can color outside the lines, and it's beautiful. And it's different, and it has a little bit of character to it. But yeah, I've seen that too. I've done a little bit, even my own experiments, of trying to cloud burst, if you will, pointing at the clouds and telling it to, what really gave some validity for me is when I was working, and I believed in the prophetic, and but it was early on. I was working out in the hot fields, and we were weed eating, and I'm barely hanging on. Like, it's so hot, and I got to get out there, and I have to work, and I'm weed eating, and I'm working with all these inmates and prisoners, and we're cutting grass, and I'm like trying to conjure it up to rain, and I'm speaking to it. I'm asking God. I'm like calling it in, and like the couple times that I did it, it worked. Like, I brought the rain clouds over, and it rained. All right, everybody, we're done for the day. Put up the tools and let's go home. And it was like something that I wanted enough that I felt like, was it coincidence? Or was it going to rain anyway? And I just had to kind of, the right timing. Who knows? There was other times where, like, I remember working for the delivery company, and it was storming, and I would get to a customer, and I would pray, and I would speak to the clouds and command the clouds to, like, quit raining just above my truck, so that I'm not going to be drenched, with rain, and I have a long day ahead of me, and I'll be soaking wet. And I remember getting to places, and just enough time for me to get in and out, it almost seemed like the clouds opened up around my vehicle. But again, with that, there's times that we've done it and nothing happens. It doesn't stop raining. It ruins the event that you're trying to plan for, the rain. And we've all been out there speaking to the rain and acting crazy. I command this rain. I've been out there with a bunch of Christians, and even that lady, Kat Kerr. I don't know. She has a video of her. She's a preacher, crazy preacher lady, but she's out there with a staff talking to the hurricane at the beach, the last one that came, and it was like people were commenting on the crazy charismatics, and you guys really believe that you can stop the rains and stuff like that. But I mean, looking at the Bible, Jesus did it, and they said, who is this person who has the power that even the winds and waves obeyed him? That he was able to go out there, and he understood his connection with nature and his power and authority as a son of God over the elements. And he did it and said, look, he rebuked his disciples because they didn't do it. Now, I do believe that, even though that's the physical realm, I definitely believe that that's more so spiritual. The winds and waves in our own life, and the mountains and the giants that we face, like the allegory to us, right? He's like, hey, why are you looking outside of yourself? I've given you everything. You come wake me up. I'm sleeping at the bottom of the ship, and but physical sounds fun too. But then again, we don't see it as much though,
What is the physical, though? I mean, the physical is just basically a vibration of energy that happens to be tangible to our senses. So, which is more possible? Well, they're both possible, spiritual and physical. I think we can fundamentally alter and change the energy that's manifesting around us in the form of physicality. Now, I think that it's not just so easy as making up your mind you're going to do it and it just happens. I think that there are, you have to be able to channel a hell of a lot of energy in order to change a physicality like that. But I think it is possible. I think we've all had those moments where we're just like, oh, I'm trying to hang up this tarp and the damn wind won't stop. God, it needs to stop now. Boom, it stops. You hang up the tarp and it's done. Yeah. Boom, wind starts again. We've all experienced that. I think everybody has, even skeptical people, I think, have probably had something like that happen and went like, what the hell was that? But, I've had more of those kind of things than I can even remember, where something about what I needed to have happen suddenly happened. Was it me, or was it some buddy looking over my shoulder going, okay, that's what can happen? I think that it's us, whether we know it or not, that we, again, we get back to the interconnectedness of us with the universe of all things. We are in all things, as we are, by our birthright of being manifest, being a manifested form of divinity, that the spark of our life that created the fire that we are came from the heart of God. So what could we be capable of? I mean, there is no limits.
Yeah. I think we are little creators. There was a time in the church where like the word of faith movement and the charismatic movement were using some of this language that has been used in the New Age circles for a long time. The little creators, the law of attraction, the secret even was being taught in church circles, but we didn't know where it came from, but it was all taught in these New Age movements as well. But the fact that we are made in the image and likeness of a creator, but it's like, how much power do we have? Like, can we create what? Can we create matter? Like, can we create a tree? Can we create a seed? Or can we create situations and circumstance? Like we create paintings, I don't know where the form of being a little God is. Definitely over our own universe and our own reality. But as far as manifestation and how long it takes to create something, those are the mysteries. There's theory and things saying that some of the Buddhist monks have gotten to the point where they can make flowers and things manifest on cue. They've been able to pull stuff out of the dream state, again, like a shaman would be able to do. But I'm talking about even instantly, like making these things appear just because they willed them they kind of willed it to happen.
Right. Yeah, I think it's all possible. I mean, Jesus, of course, is regarded as the Lamb, the Son of God, but his disciples were just people. And if his disciples were capable of the great works as well, I mean, anybody that is so inclined, I believe, can as well, because I don't think Jesus fundamentally changed the genetic makeup of his disciples. I think that they just decided to open themselves up to that light and manifest it. Yep. So I think we're all capable.
Yep, the level of possibility. And I think it ties back into everything we've been saying as far as like when you believe it, you'll receive it. They believed it. They seen it happen. Jesus is like, look, I'm no different than you. I chose not the likeness of angels. I came as a regular man for a reason. Because you wouldn't have believed me. You would have formulated a new religion, right? But I came as one of you to show you guys that greater things that you guys are able to do as well, if you want to. And a testimony of seeing us, again, going back to the repeatability. If Jesus did it, I can do it. Well, if his disciples did it, I can do it. If my uncle did it, I can do it, or whatever. And showing us that God is not a respecter of persons. What is happening for one person is good for the rest of us. We all can do it. And that's the beauty of it, and sparking again that awe and wonder of belief, the levels of consciousness, and making this world a better place by the use of the paranormal and spirituality. Brent, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I really enjoyed it. I want to send traffic your way just because we did a really good interview. We did 2 hours on your podcast where you picked my brain about my book and some of the stuff that we talked about in there, and it was really good. So everybody listening, make sure that you subscribe to his YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcasting apps. He's on all of that stuff under Paranormal Portal. But if you want to plug your stuff, man, let people know where the best place to go to check out your stuff is. Go ahead and do that now, man.
All right. Well, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio. You can follow the show there. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/Paranormal Portal. And again, the podcasting apps. So we're on Twitter too. I'm not a big tweeter, but if you'd follow me there, I'd appreciate it. And that you can find us at Paranormal Portal, PORTL. I didn't have room for the A in there. So I did what I could. But yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate being on. It's always a pleasure, brother. I'm just really thrilled to have gotten to know you and the friendship and the future projects we're going to do together.
Yeah. Thank you for all the, I've been picking your brain about the podcasting and how to make it better and what programs and apps to use and numbers and just how the intricacy of it is. So thank you for taking the time with me. There's a lot of people, dude, bothered me. You know what I'm saying? And I've sent those emails out to some of those people who don't respond, and you had me on as a guest. So thank you for that. Question, how many nights a week do you go live?
Every night.
7?
7 of them. Yeah.
Wow. 7 nights a week.
3 podcasts on top of that. So 10 shows a week.
Wow.
7 p.m.
content.
Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. You can catch live shows, but otherwise, they're available if you just want to catch it when you can.
How often do you have guests on your show?
I always, I sometimes, it's just depends. I mean, I don't have a guest-based show, but at the same time, I love having guests on. So if somebody pops up that I think it'd be fun to bring on, I do. But I never wanted the show to be dependent upon that. I just wanted it to be a discussion about the paranormal. So sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's kind of could be either.
Well, the interesting thing as well, you got the chat going, and then you have the phone lines open as well. So you essentially have new guests every time.
There you go.
Again, that's the fun part. You opening the chat up for the podcast up for the callers in the community. Again, I just did it like last week, and I learned so much stuff from the chat. Like, I read their messages, but it goes so fast sometimes. But them being able to call in and articulate some of these ideas, it like I said, for me, it breathes a lot more, you know what I'm saying, life into the podcast, and kind of, because sometimes the monotony, there's another podcast. And for me, it's like another psychic, another pastor, another this, another alien, you know. And so just to stay hungry and stay intrigued and keeping the mind going and remembering why you got into this stuff, you know, can be tricky sometimes.
It can, but it's been I thought I knew a lot when I started much since, just from what everybody brings to the table, that it's just been an incredible journey, and I'm always excited for what's coming next.
Good stuff. Well, guys, make sure you go check out his podcast, everything that he's bringing to the table. I'm sure we'll do more stuff together. I'm open to do this whenever, man. And thank you for opening up your platform to me as well. And thanks so much, brother. We'll do it again very soon. Thank you.
All right. Everybody take care.
All right, brother. God bless. Bye-bye. Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal. Portal to the paranormal. Hearing voices speaking to me when spirit touches a mortal. Good stuff. Man, we did a really good show. So you guys, like, he had me on. He's got a pretty big and eclectic following. He had me on to talk about the book right after it came out, and we had a good conversation. I email people all the time. And a lot of times I don't hear back from anybody, trying to network and kind of get the word out there about what I do. Everybody hits me up. You should go on so-and-so show. You should go on so-and-so. I email these people, man. They don't always email me back, but Brent did. And I went on this show. We had a beautiful episode and became friends after that. So make sure y'all check out what he has going on. But again, like, going back to the intention and the words that we speak, there's power in your words. What I say in that, there's power in your verses. The power in my verses reverses. Power in these verses reverses demonic curses. Teachings of Pythagoras. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of my lyrics that go back to the power of words, creating your reality. Just listening to a podcast like this, again, going back to, like, I'm talking about scary movies and UFO and alien movies and stuff like that, it births something within you. I mean, in the Christian realm, they'll say, don't watch scary movies because you'll open up a door, and that could be true as well. Like, you'll maybe open yourself up to an encounter or an experience or a spirit. There's a lot of fear when it comes to that. Phone lines are still open. We got a few minutes left. If you want to come through, 251-263-0001. Let me know if you want to talk. If you have something to add to the episode, the paranormal, and if you guys even like the topics, there's a lot to be said with spirituality and the paranormal. For me, they go hand in hand. It's just their names and terms, but my book, everything we talk about in the music. So someone called it fantasy hip hop one time. You're like, I like your music, man. It's fantasy rap. And I kind of got offended at first. I was like, well, it does borderline fantasy, right? And your will to believe it. What was that quote? Somebody quoted this. Let's see. I'm going to Google this. I don't even know if I'll find it, though. But there was a quote that someone said about the borderline. I don't even know. Schizophrenia quotes. Misdiagnosed. Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting. Spirituality and the paranormal. I think all this stuff goes together. I really do. Shout out to everybody holding us down in the chat. Angela Thompson, shout out to you. Eddie Sauce, aka Home Sauce. Chris Bars, Christy Johnson, Durelli. I don't even know if I'm saying your name right, but shout out to you. Adam Starseed Bay. Name some of these people here. So many people. Gothic Mystic, Padawan, Chris Garner, Shelley, Illuminous, Chill Empress. So many people here. There's no way I could say all these names. Thank you guys for hanging out. Again, let's see. Chris Garner says, I got to have Donald Marshall on. Are you being silly or being for real? I don't know if you looked into him after that. I think you already was looking into that guy. But yeah, a lot of people have been telling me I need to look into some of that. Man, we're booked up. Like, this is definitely a guest oriented show. Man, I'm booked up until like almost to February. I'm going into February with guest. Booked up weeks in advance. Good stuff. What's up, Jay? How are you? Shelly says, enjoyed the stream. Have a great day, TruthSeekah. For sure. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I've tried to hook these phone lines up. I don't know if they were working or not. Somebody called in at first, but then it was giving me all of these errors of this countdown. It's kind of weird. I think it's still working, though. So, yeah. Juice WRLD, this death. Have y'all seen that or no? Let me see if I can. This is gonna suck for people. Well, I'm not gonna play it. I'll get pulled just because of the song. But the challenge, man, it's very strange of these kind of trends that kind of get popular for the kids. They doing a dance and automatically like having a seizure and like making fun of it. I think you can will this stuff up. I think that's all what we've been talking about today, but I think that's what we always discuss on the podcast and the music and the work and the book. Like all this stuff's in together with manifestation, and I'm open and honest about how I manifested it. The power in your words. Again, an old friend of mine had this thing that he was like he hit me up and he was like, because he's seen that we were #1 on iTunes whenever we the podcast hit #1 for a couple weeks in a row. It's the top spiritual podcast on iTunes. And he hit me up and he was like, now I told him like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to create this. I'm going to stay consistent. This is what I'm doing. We were friends, but then he kind of, took a different stance about what I do and who he is and all that kind of stuff. And he overnight became an enemy. I'm not going to say any names, but he hit me up and he was like, I see what you did there, man, with your witchcraft. You used witchcraft and you became #1. Congratulations, but you were right. Your witchcraft really did work. It's like, what are you talking about? This life is magical. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Like, yeah. Again, I know I've talked about this a couple times, but talking about the white witch, white magic, like using spirituality, using magic for good to help people. Like, you're a master manifester and you don't even know it. Just because everything's like not going your way, just because nothing cool is happening, you manifested it. Once you understand that you can work with God, that you can work with the universe to manifest things within your life, you're not a victim anymore. You become a victor. It becomes a lot more inclusive. And you have a big part to play in that role, that song and dance again with God and spirituality and life. And that's how it was created. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Speak life that you may live. Seek life. 100 Days at a Time says, aren't we tired of these young rappers dying either from drugs or getting shot, if they don't end up in prison from shooting somebody, it's so sad. It's so, like, I posted a video of Juice WRLD and, like, in his lyrics, and these people are crying out for help, man. The kids are crying out for help, but people ain't listening. I don't know why. You know, they're crying. And I mean, there's the lyrics are talking about, like, I'm searching for purpose. I'm going to be on these drugs until I die. These drugs are going to be the death of me. All I do is eat Molly till I wake up. And literally, like, talking about they know they're going to die from this stuff. Let me read some of these lyrics because I posted some of them. This was one of the creepy ones that he said, this guy who just died from an OD. He says, these drugs got me sweating, but the room getting colder. Looking at the devil and the angel on my shoulder. Will I die tonight? I don't know. Is it over? The answer is yes. Yes. You died. Whether it was a suicide because he didn't want to go to jail, as people are saying. There's a weird relationship people have with suicide now, man. It's becoming popular. A friend of mine on Facebook was, like, encouraging it. And, like, hey, it's a way out. Like, some people just choose to go early, man. Get over it. You know? I don't think it's a way out. I don't think that. Again, I think reincarnation can be dangerous, because a lot of these people who believe, who look at suicide as a way out, they believe that they get another shot. They get to come back and do it again. I've had friends threaten with suicide. I'm going to kill myself. I'm just going to get up. They look at it like a reset button. They just get to do it over. I messed this one up. Sorry. Try it again. Come back as a different person. I don't think it works like that, guys. I think it's very dangerous. That's why I don't like. I mean, we talk about it, the idea of coming back, and there's some scriptures that are kind of vague and talk about the spirits or essence of a being coming back to do it again. But you know, you gotta live. You got. You know what I'm saying? Live like this is the only shot you got. Do it now. Get it right now. Okay, you're conscious and aware that you messed up. Good. Now you can be conscious and aware to get it right. You can. I mean, again, most of the light workers and psychics and healers and Christians and pastors and preachers, they're inwardly working off their debt to society. They were terrible human beings. It caused a lot of harm for a lot of people. And now they realize that, and they're trying to offset the damage that they've caused. Whether they're aware of it or not. A lot of them are aware of it. Some of them know. No, this is just the path that I chose. No, it chose you. Because you offset the balance to try to leave this earth a little bit better off than you found it. Right? Wouldn't it suck if you came and you were just a leech? A parasite? We want to bless it. We want to bring something to the table. We want to help people. We want to help whatever your calling and your passion is. You want to help people get to heaven. You want to help people get through their struggles. You want to help the animals who are dying off. Like, you know, you want to save the environment. Whatever it is, like, you were a leech. Your existence was just sucking the life out of things. You didn't attribute anything. That would suck, to be your existence. But to come and bless this place, man, and leave it a little bit better. And whether you feel like you have a debt to society or you're just by default, I think all these things work together for your good. Angela says suicide is not the answer. Nope, not at all. It can't rain every day. You know, there's hope, man. And I think that's what we, with all of this stuff, again, the afterlife with God, Jesus, the afterlife. Excuse me. Christy Johnson says, TruthSeekah, is it God's will that they kill themselves? Free will is so hard to understand. No, I don't think it is. I don't think that, you know, it's complicated. You know what I'm saying? It's complicated because a lot of Christians and church folks, they'll try to look at suicide or something like that, and they'll say that it's you're going to spend eternity in hell if you take your life. And suicide is a direct ticket to hell. A lot of Christians believe that under this weird guise that you didn't have a chance to ask for forgiveness. But that ties into the weird theology of you're driving on the interstate, you get in a car crash, and you yell a profanity, whatever it is, before you hit the tree and you die, and you didn't have a chance to ask for forgiveness. Like as a kid, I believed that. I don't know why. Just religion, Christianity, like you have to, it was a part of saying your prayers every night. I say my prayers every night. I ask for forgiveness every day. That you had to like get it right every day. Versus like getting it right because of what Christ has done. He got it right and he paid for our sins and our trust is in him. That you have to keep getting it right. If that's the case, we're all screwed, guys. If we have to keep getting it right and keep messing up, stay on the right path, we're screwed. Because it's a faith, lest any man should boast. It's not of your own works. But your good works proves your faith. Let me show you my faith by my works. Don't just say, I care for the hungry. I care for the orphans in Africa. No, help them. If you really care for them, you help them. If you care for the homeless, if you care for these people, you're going to help them. That's just how it is. Your works prove your faith, but you're not justified by your works. If that was the case, then you didn't need Christ. But your works prove what you really believe in. That's where justification by grace comes in. Free ticket. So to think that someone, just because they commit suicide, they go directly to hell, that's crazy. That's some weird religious theology. I don't believe it. A lot of people are sick, depressed for many different reasons, and they choose that route. I don't think it's a choice. I think that it gets better tomorrow. I think that there's hope. Man, if we, act off of impulse, if we make what does Charlemagne say? If we make a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling, when you know yourself, you know how you feeling today. Look, a lot of people look into astrology to even look into that. Look, I'm going to have this ain't going to be good to go out in public tomorrow. And they live their life by that. But to really know thyself, know yourself and you will be known. To know who you are, know how you tick. Look, it's good. I got friends who cannot have a drop of alcohol. The first drop, they're ready to start taking pills. The second drop, they're ready to start smoking crack. Like, where's the self-control for different people? But those same friends have understood themselves after time of relapse and time of binges and time of just going crazy. Look, I can't touch it. I'm sorry. Come on, man. You can have one. Nope. I had one too many. I know myself. To know yourself, to know your boundaries as a person, as a child of God, to know what you can and can't do. There's discussions that I can't have with certain people. There's friends that I delete off of social media because I want to be their friend in real life. And I know they like to argue. They want to have the last word. So look, I can't get into that with you on social media. I can't. I want to be your friend in real life. So let's just get up. You don't know how to use social media. Or I don't, or whatever the case is. Angela says, thank you. I believe the same. Suicide, cussing, not a straight ticket to Lucifer. A ticket straight to Lucifer. Jeremy says, yo, what up, Jeremy? J-Ball. So it's a little bit, we've been told these weird one-liners or these, again, putting things in boxes. Okay, suicide is this. Direct. You weren't strong enough. You took the easy way out. I don't believe it's an option. I don't think that anyone should do it. I think that there's, again, making permanent decisions based on temporary feelings or emotions. To know yourself. It was funny when I released my book, the day my book came out, I was so happy. I'm still happy. Like I can go back and remember the day it came out. It was only 2 months ago, but I was doing interviews and they're like, how does it feel? And I'm like, I feel really good right now. This is a huge accomplishment. But tomorrow, and I told them, look, tomorrow, the newness is going to wear off. And it's going to be an old book. You know, it's still a book. I created it, right? So there's still that joy. But like this whole song and dance of navigating through life and through situations and through friendships, it's a roller coaster ride. It's a journey. There's different parts of the journey. Sometimes you're on the mountaintop. Sometimes you're climbing the mountain. It's hard work. Right? Looking at anything. This book it's a hard process to write. Like I would spend a full day writing and get like 3 paragraphs. I feel drained. What? That's all I got? Like it was hard, man. But it's there. Like the part of the journey. Now I get to climb that mountain of what it is to be an author and have a book that's helping people and blessing people and helping people explore and ask bigger questions and things like that. So anything worth doing is doing right. It's a journey. Everything that you do, and it's all worth it. So, and I have to be vigilant. Like I have to talk about this. There's people committing suicide through the drugs. Again, like when I shared that status, that's what I said when I posted the Juice WRLD video and lyrics. I said I think he left us a suicide note. Like these songs were almost a suicide note. I'm drinking lean with my white friends. I'm smoking perp with my black. Like all of these cryptic drug use help me. I can't find happiness. I can't find love. Like it's kind of he's letting you know. It wasn't a secret. He struggled. You know. It's just interesting, man. I think that there were times where, you know, that we are low and we feel like there's no way out. We feel maybe you're there now, but there's always hope. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a way for you to have forgiveness of what you've done. How do I do that? First of all, forgive those who have wronged you, like Jesus said. Forgive others and you'll be forgiven. Are you going to hold offense and you're going to blame people and hold them captive, but you want forgiveness? Come on, like whatever you're looking for, do it. That's what we've been talking about. You're going to find what you're looking for. You're going to reap what you sow. If you want forgiveness, sow it into the world. Sow forgiveness into those who've wronged you. If you want blessing and prosperity and help, sow it into the world. You want a friend? Be a friend. It's how it works. It comes back to you. Let's see what Jeremy said here. He didn't believe he could get help. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people, man. And again, I don't like talking about this stuff. I just want to let you know, man, that you're not alone. I mean, that's huge. I didn't even know how huge that was. It's almost cliche. You're not alone. But I found that just in my inbox from listeners who would say, look, man, like your podcast literally shows me that I'm not alone. Your community, your Discord, it shows me that there's other people like me, that I'm not crazy. Even though I'm different, even though I'm eclectic, I'm not crazy. There's a spot for me. I'm not just another face in the crowd. And there's people who they choose that, and they don't tell you. You know, usually the friend who's calling me, telling me, or whatever, saying that they're going to do it, they usually don't. It's the person that you had no idea. They just do it. And again, the whole I attempted suicide, like, you do it. You just do it or you don't. I know a guy, he attempted it, and he's still here. This guy's wife left him. And this is a guy in Louisiana named Dog. His wife left him, so he takes I think it was a 45 and puts it up to his chin. And he shoots himself in the chin straight up. Well, he missed his brain and blew off his nose and messed his nasal cavity up. Now he doesn't have a nose, and he has to speak by a voice box and putting his hand over a hole and mumble. And he's still here. You know? He tried it. He thought he was going to do it. But he's still here, and you got a second chance at life. And things get better. You find somebody else to love you for who you are. You know, to find out that there is a way out, right? Who just hit me at Rock? Is that, I can't really see, but asking me, am I live on Twitch? I should be, yeah. Yeah, you're commenting on Twitch. I should be live on Twitch. Yeah, we're streaming on a lot of different platforms right now. Twitch, Facebook, DLive, Periscope, bunch of cool places. Podcasting apps if you're listening to this after the stream. But again, I think we have to, you know, that's the message of Jesus was hope. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to take that way out. Things get better. Feel different. Some days you wake up, you just ain't feeling it. If you don't remember anything from this whole podcast, don't make a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion. The emotions change. They lie. Change like the wind. Here today, gone tomorrow. So, with that being said, I'm going to say peace and shalom. I'm going to go ahead and end this episode, man. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. This has been 2 hours and 22 minutes into this podcast. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's been awesome. I enjoyed this conversation. Brent's a really cool guy. Paranormal Portal. His podcast is awesome. Make sure you guys check that out. So with that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. If you would like to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There's different tiers and levels and cool things that you get. Our Thursday night School of the Mystics, you get access to that. We'll be doing that tonight. My book is available. Again, I'm going to keep plugging this. Spirit Realm, bunch of content. Everything that we talked about. Like, I wanted to just start reading stuff out of the book. Because we talked about, like, cursed objects or whatever. And I have a whole chapter that talks about charging objects and cursed objects and blessed objects. You know, for one thing to be true, the opposite has to be true as well. If there's such thing as a cursed object, there should be such thing as a blessed object. And so I go into some detail about this kind of stuff in the Bible that shows where some of this stuff is in the Bible. There was I don't know if the person's listening to this, but there was a comment that I got, a review, and it was pretty much a good review of the book. But there was some they said if I had to have one thing, they said it was kind of targeted to the religious. Like there was like a religious undertone to a lot of this stuff. And I would say, but that's what this book was for. It's a bridge between the religious, the spiritual, and the paranormal. Like it's a bridge just to show you that some of the stuff that we were talking about today that seems far out, like there's reasons that there were scriptures in there. You got to understand, like people who are in the church, people like even me, like I was at a point where like I would believe it if it was in the Bible. I don't care what it was. If you could show me in the Bible, then I would believe it. And so there's a lot of people who are like that. Christians, you show them in the Bible, like, wow, that's really in there. You know, somebody told me one day, they were like, you know, Abraham practiced voodoo. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That sounds like the craziest thing since Leatherhead. What is Abraham practice voodoo? And somebody else on the phone was like, yeah, you never heard it? I said, no. And they showed me in the scripture where Abraham did voodoo. And I was like, wow, interesting. Never read that or never looked at it in that light, just kind of skimmed over it. And seeing some of these different things that kind of tag these practices back to a spiritual practice that's even in the Bible. So that was, the book is a bridge. So there's a reason that there's a scripture overtone. I didn't have to, but this is what it is. You know, there's a lot of people who are in religion and they hear us talk about a lot of these spiritual abilities and the paranormal and things like that. And so they want proof. They want biblical proof. And that's what the book is. For a lot of people, that's what the podcast is. They love it when I talk about the Bible because they've never heard it broken down in such a way. Like it was always, again, when Brent when I went on this podcast, I sent him my book. I sent him my bio. He was like, oh God, he's about to come on here and he's going to denounce and rebuke everything that we talk about. And like, I can still get that. You know, I'm not allowed on a lot of shows because they think it's some type of religious ideas or whatever, but you can go on Ancient Aliens and talk about this stuff. So I'm gonna keep being me, man. And I get in where I fit in. And if I can't get in your lane, I'll make my own. And And that's what we've done here. And I found out that there's a lot of different people who resonate with this type of material and work, and they feel the same way. I don't think that I'm doing anything special. I think I'm just being vocal about my own experiences, which is the similarities and similar to what a lot of other people are believing are going through as well. They just never heard it vocalized like this before. So, and with that, you know, it's doing what it's doing. Rock says that's because people justify bad according to 2 verses in the Bible about a cult being bad. Solomon's seal practiced by the highest levels of magic. Yep. Yeah, I'll go into that. Just a whole chapter about symbolism and just about the ways of looking at all of this stuff. You can what you're looking for, you're gonna find. If you're looking for the negativity, if you're looking for the demons and the bad within it, you're gonna find it. If you're looking for the good, if you're looking for blessing, you're gonna find it. So the universe is set up in such a way that you find whatever you're looking for. And I try to, paint those pictures. You may read the book and have a lot more. You're going to have a lot more questions. You're going to have some answers about stuff, but you're going to have a lot more answers. The questions, I want you to think. Don't just take somebody's word for it. You've done that for too long. Think. Ask the questions. I remember when I got freedom and just like had a new look at life and spirituality in the Bible, I just started Googling stuff. I just started and I would find it in the Bible, or I would use I have a program, eSword. It's a Bible search program. And I would just type in these words in the Bible, and it would show you every time that the Bible says this word and read the context. And you're like, wow, look up the word divination in the Bible. That'll blow your mind. To think that the occult or divination is something bad. It's used so many times in a good light. It blew my mind. I had no idea. I thought divination was demonic and only to conjugate and summon demons and conjure demons and stuff like that. But seeing that it was something that the priests did, seeing it was something that the disciples did. Come on. It is what it is. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here, man. Let's see who somebody said. How do you think John's revelation will come without divination? For sure. Signs and symbols. That's even encoded for us, though. Like it's codes and signs and symbols. The word occult simply means hidden knowledge. Or the word esoteric meaning truth for a few. Like you're going to get it if you keep seeking it, if you keep searching for it, if you ask the questions, if you take it at face value as what most people do about even the Bible or spirituality, whatever. Face value, you're just going to be on the outer courts of what's going on and just kind of be a spectator. But when you ask the bigger questions and you search for it, you end up finding the bigger answers. And esoteric is truth for a few. Who are the few? Are we just chosen by birth? No, it's the few who search for it, who ask. Jesus says, ask, seek, and knock. For them who ask, they will be answered. For those who knock, the door will be open. That's up to you. You could be the spectator, or you can follow him up the mountain. When Peter, James, and John followed Jesus up the mountain, they got to see some really cool stuff. The rest of the people were falling asleep. It's up to you. As deep and as far out as you want to go, it will be given to you. It's up to you. Or you can be a spectator, you can be a bystander. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You can just watch. You could be a hearer of the word and not a doer also. But it's up to you, different levels. And just kind of learning not to judge people based on their level of faith, and not to judge people or look down upon people, whether how deep they go into it. It's different. So with that, I'm going to jump off of here again. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. Check out my book, all the stuff we're bringing to the table. We're going to do it again. Again, we're booked up until going into February with guests. So it's going to be good. And I'm adding Wednesday nights to the stream too. We're going to start doing 3 streams a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we also have School of the Mystics and a bunch of other cool stuff. So holla at you later, guys. If I can find this freaking outro. I can't find it for some reason. I think I deleted it. It always sucks, right? I bet I can find it here, though. Maybe. Peace, y'all. I don't even find my...
Have a book, product, or service you'd like to promote? Look no further. Ad slots and commercials are now available for you to get the word out about what you do on the TruthSeekah Podcast.
We give you what you need.
Engage the spiritual community and get yourself instantly in front of thousands of listeners who explore the spiritual, paranormal, supernatural, religious, and metaphysical realms. Have your commercial inserted into our entire archive of episodes. That includes the one with Jordan Maxwell, James Gilliland, Dr. Michael Heiser, and that weird one with Busy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony. Stop sleeping on yourself. Know your worth. Let's get the word out today about what you have to offer. Head on over to TruthSeekah.com and click on Advertise for more info.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah Podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.